morning and welcome to our July 13th, 2026 Board of County Commission meeting. This is our budget hearing, our first budget hearing. Please join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are two presets today. Public comment will be taken at 9:05, and public comment will be taken at the end of the agenda. There are no additional items. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move approval of the agenda.
There's a motion and a second. Any objections? That motion passes unanimously. Would anyone from the public like to address this? I do not have any requests to speak forms. Then we will start on our fiscal year 2026-27 budget workshop. We'll start off with the constitutional officers. We'll start with the sheriff.
Commissioners, I was just going to introduce real quick as we start this process. Ms. Murley and I put together a budget that essentially keeps our millages flat. Our focus is on service. You'll hear that theme throughout the day. In terms of what we do, it's important to know from our taxpayers and certainly the constitutional amendment on all the different things that we do, and you'll see that throughout today's presentations, and look forward to working with you on this workshop on any amendments that you may desire to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Murley.
Good
Want to do
morning.
an overview first?
Yes, I'll do the overview first. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Stephanie Murley, the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, here to present to you the fiscal year 2027 budget. This budget represents months of collaboration between county departments, our constitutional officers, the Office of Management and Budget, and county administration. It is a balanced financial plan that provides funding for the services and responsibilities of county government while maintaining the county's established financial policies and long-term planning practices. The proposed budget outlines the financial resources needed to carry out the services and responsibilities of Martin County government during the upcoming fiscal year. Funding is allocated to support departmental operations, public infrastructure, statutory responsibilities, and other programs authorized by the board. Today's presentation will provide an overview of the proposed budget and the services and functions it supports. So today's workshop begins with an overview of the budget development process before reviewing the county's financial picture, tax base, revenues, expenditures, and major budget drivers. We'll then move into each constitutional officer and county department budget, highlighting the services provided to our community and discussing any significant operational or capital changes before asking the board to establish the tentative millage rates. This workshop is required by Florida Statute 125.74, which requires the county administrator to prepare and submit a balanced operating and capital budget to the board for consideration. The document before you today is a working budget. The purpose of today's workshop is to review that proposal, receive board direction, answer questions, and make any necessary revisions before establishing tentative millage rates. If necessary, the workshop can continue tomorrow, July 14th. So a little bit about the Martin County budget timeline. The county's budget process is a year-round effort. Development begins months in advance with updates to the capital improvement program, followed by departmental budget requests, revenue forecasting, and review of operational needs. Once the property appraiser certifies the taxable values on July 1st, staff finalizes the proposed budget and calculates the millage options available to the board. Today's workshop is just another step in that process before the public hearings are scheduled in September. The development of the county's annual budget follows a structured process guided by Florida statutes, including the requirements established through the truth in millage or trim process. These requirements provide a framework for transparency, public participation, and accountability throughout the budget cycle. Florida law requires that budgets be balanced, meaning that anticipated revenues must equal planned expenditures. Deficit budgeting is not permitted with local county governments. The budget must account for all expected revenues, expenditures, reserves, and available fund balances to provide a complete picture of the county's financial position. Finally, the budget must provide the resources necessary to deliver county services while maintaining responsible financial management, accountability, and transparency for residents. So the FY27 budget at a glance. This slide provides an overview of the major themes reflected in the fiscal year 27 budget. The proposed millage rate remains unchanged from the prior year, while the budget continues to focus on maintaining the current level of services provided to residents. The majority of investments included in the proposed budget are focused on core community priorities, including public safety, infrastructure needs, and continued maintenance and protection of county assets. The budget also includes 2 new board positions, each designed to support operational needs, improve efficiency, and strengthen cybersecurity and public records capabilities. And additionally, the FY27 budget continues the county's longstanding approach of maintaining strong financial reserves and conservative debt levels. These practices provide financial stability and help position the county to respond to future emergencies, economic uncertainty, and long-term needs. So a question many residents ask is, what exactly does county government do? Florida law assigns counties significant responsibilities that protect public health, safety, and welfare. Many of these responsibilities are mandatory, including funding the constitutional officers, the court facilities, emergency management, inmate medical care, Medicaid contributions, veteran services, public health partnerships, planning and zoning, and enforcing the building code. And in addition to those legal responsibilities, the county operates 16 specialized departments that maintain roads, parks, libraries, environmental programs, public buildings, technology systems, utilities, and emergency services. And this budget is just the financial plan or the mathematical summation that allows those services to be delivered every day. FY27 budget development. The FY27 budget reflects the board's direction to maintain current service levels. This budget fully funds constitutional officers' requests and mandatory state obligations while limiting increases to contractual commitments, unavoidable inflationary pressures, and essential operating needs. In this budget, county departments were directed to maintain current budget levels, with the exception of those items that could not be absorbed within their current operating budgets. Many departments maximize current line item budgets by reallocating within their respective departments based on the most current needs and trends of each division. So FY27 budget highlights what changed and what didn't. The FY27 tentative budget reflects the changing cost of delivering the same level of service to residents with no changes to existing service requirements. Many of the budget increases are associated with inflationary impacts on goods and services, contractual obligations, employee benefits, Florida retirement system contribution rates, and other required operating costs. The proposed budget continues to maintain current service levels while keeping the county millage rate unchanged. The budget includes 2 additional board positions that support cybersecurity and public record services. And continues the county's practice of maintaining financial reserves for emergencies, economic and legislative uncertainty, and long-term financial stability. So how do we budget? Our budget utilizes a line item incremental budgeting approach, which takes the previous year's adopted budget and uses it as a base for the new budget. Non-recurring budget requests, such as a one-time piece of equipment, are deducted from the base budget. O&B and departments carefully monitor the revenues and expenses of the base budget and make line item adjustments or reallocations as necessary to maintain the current level of service as well as identify efficiency opportunities. These adjustments include contractual and/or mandated obligations of current county programs and services. And what line item incremental budgeting does is provide stability and predictability of county services and prevents drastic fluctuations in service level and budgetary needs. So here's a little snapshot of our current year revenue collections through June 30th, which represents 75% of the fiscal year. Current revenue collections continue to perform or outperform as expected. Property tax collections are in line with budget expectations. Investment earnings remain strong, and enterprise operations continue generating revenues consistent with their projections. Monitoring these revenue trends throughout the fiscal year allows staff to make informed financial decisions while maintaining responsible reserve levels. So a little bit about Martin County's economic landscape. While inflation has slowed for consumers, local governments continue facing significantly higher costs for many of the goods and services necessary to provide public services and maintain public infrastructure. While the general CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, since 2020 has shown an increase of around 23% nationally, South Florida and local government items such as construction materials, chemicals, utilities, fuel, maintenance contracts, and equipment have increased well above general consumer inflation, ranging between 35% and 65% increases, and even more for specialized equipment and materials, which departments will elaborate on in their presentations. These cost pressures directly affect the cost of providing public services. But despite significant inflationary increases since 2020, the proposed FY27 budget maintains the current FY26 millage rate, which still remains 3.5% lower than the 2020 millage rate through continued operational efficiencies and award-winning financial policies. This chart shows the 2026 taxable values as provided by the property appraiser on July 1st. The county's tax base is the total taxable value of property throughout Martin County. This includes TPP, residential, industrial, commercial. This year, the preliminary taxable value is approximately $41.8 billion, which is an increase of 6.38% over last year. According to our Martin County property appraiser, most of this growth comes from new construction and continued increases in taxable values as Florida's assessment limitations catch up with previous years of market appreciation, or also known as the recapture rule. So a little bit about our fiscal year 27 sources of revenue. The county's budget is funded through a combination of revenue sources. Approximately 45% is derived from ad valorem, also known as property taxes, while the remaining 55% is generated through user fees, utility charges, grants, state-shared revenues, sales taxes, franchise fees, and other dedicated and restricted revenue sources. Many of these revenues are restricted by law and may only be used for specific purposes. The fiscal year 27 budget reflects an overall increase of 5.4% over fiscal year 2026. The FY27 budget provides funding for the wide range of services and responsibilities Martin County delivers every day. These include public safety, transportation, parks, libraries, environmental stewardship, public infrastructure, and the operational support necessary to provide those services. Every dollar in the budget is allocated to a specific program, service, or public asset. As required by law, the proposed budget is balanced with total revenues equaling total expenditures. So a little bit about the fiscal year 27 ad valorem or property tax impact budget drivers. The increase in ad valorem revenue primarily supports maintaining current service levels for residents while meeting the county's statutory, contractual, and operational responsibilities. The largest portion funds constitutional officers in required state and judicial agencies such as the medical examiner, public defender's office, court administration, and the state attorney's office, and guardian ad litem. Additional funding addresses increases in retirement contributions established by the state, employee health insurance, contractual services, capital infrastructure, community redevelopment agency obligations, and financial reserves. This budget also includes the 2 positions that I mentioned for cybersecurity and public records. So where do the property tax dollars go? This graphic illustrates how the county's property tax revenues support a range of services and responsibilities provided to residents. The largest share supports public safety services, including the Martin County Sheriff's Office, fire rescue and ambulance services, emergency management, E911 and communications, ocean rescue, nuclear planning, fire prevention, and the county jail. Another significant portion supports the general government operations, including county administration, all of the rest of the constitutional officers, the 19th Judicial Circuit and state agencies, as well as the maintenance of public facilities, information technology, and other support services necessary for county operations. The remaining portion supports transportation and infrastructure maintenance, environmental stewardships, parks, and libraries. Several of these functions, including public safety, emergency management, court-related responsibilities, and support for constitutional officers, are responsibilities assigned to counties under Florida law. Together, these funding allocations support the ongoing delivery of services throughout Martin County. This is a Martin County debt snapshot. Martin County continues maintaining conservative debt levels. Debt is strategically used for major long-term capital investments. Financing long-term capital projects allows the cost of these assets to be distributed over their useful life, aligning the investment with the residents who benefit from the infrastructure over time, while continuing to reduce outstanding obligations through scheduled principal payments. The county routinely evaluates its outstanding debt for opportunities to refinance or retire debt early when it's financially beneficial, helping reduce borrowing costs and maximize available resources. Maintaining low debt strengthens the county's financial position and helps preserve our favorable credit ratings, which have been most recently rated AA+ and AA in our recent credit rating reviews. As mentioned previously, the FY27 budget includes a limited number of new positions to support operational needs and maintain current service levels. For the Board of County Commissioners, 2 positions are recommended: network administration, network administrator to strengthen cybersecurity and technology infrastructure, and a public records assistant, which is currently a contractual staff conversion to support the timely processing of public records requests. The Sheriff's Office budget includes additional sworn and corrections positions to address operational public safety needs. Overall, staffing changes included in the proposed budget are intended to support continued service delivery while addressing identified operational requirements. So with that, my presentation is done, and I'm happy to answer questions before we move on to the constitutionals.
Questions?
It's a lot, sorry.
Mr. Capps?
I lost the page number, but the page that has to do with inflation, like out of all the things you just talked about, to me, the thing that jumped out the most was that page describing inflationary pressures. And just wondered if you could just hit that again. I think it's worth repeating.
So the departments have a lot of specific examples that they're going to be presenting throughout their operational budgets, but based on a lot of the materials that we're experiencing that wouldn't be part of the regular, what a consumer will go to the grocery store for, we're seeing especially janitorial supplies and even things like toilet paper. I think Sean Donahue might have that information. Toilet paper has gone up about 75%. Our own property insurance since 2020 has seen a 62% increase, and it hasn't come down. So that's the biggest thing. While inflation is slowing, we aren't seeing these prices go down, and so they remain at elevated levels of cost. So the departments will be elaborating on that, and they will have specific examples to talk to during the departmental presentations.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
also, is the timeline on the left 7 years also?
It's the same exact
From
time.
2020? Okay.
Yes, 2020, so that's our millage rate and the cost drivers in that same 2020 to 2027 timeframe.
Any further questions? Thank you.
No problem.
We will move on to individual presentations. The first, we'll start with the constitutional officers, and we will start with the sheriff.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for indulging me with a little bit of time. As mentioned earlier, this budget presentation today is just a really small snapshot of all the work that's gone into this. In fact, the Martin County Sheriff's Office, we started in February trying to compile a budget, what we need versus what we really, really need. And these captains and majors and our CFO that's with me today have worked diligently to try to make this happen, along with a lot of our employees at the Martin County Sheriff's Office. So, again, while this may be a short presentation, there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and we've been extremely thoughtful in this. And we do appreciate working with your employees here at the county to try to make this happen. It's been a collective effort. Our CFO is going to help me navigate this today, and I think I have just a few slides, but we'll go through them, and then we can dig more into them if you wish. But our total budget request this year is $128,462,075. A percentage adjustment of 7.6%. So what are the drivers of this? 7.6% sounds like a lot, but when you get into what's actually pushing this, it's going to kind of mirror what you just heard, and that's prices that have been passed us that are non-negotiable for us. Our first one is our previously bargained COLA and wage progression that our deputies and employees are on, which is huge to us. If you remember last year, we came in and I told you about losing a significant portion of the Martin County Sheriff's Office to Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. And I know our fire chief was dealing with the same thing, and you as commissioners came along behind us and helped get our COLAs where they needed to be, and we've done extremely well in that regard. In fact, this year we've been able to hire 85 new employees, so about 12% of the Martin County Sheriff's Office has been upstaffed or replenished because of your support. But that's super crucial to us to stay inside of Palm Beach County and competitive on the Treasure Coast in order to keep our employees from jumping ship after we spend thousands of dollars to get them in the door and train them to be here and stay here. We had a surprise increase in the Florida retirement system this year. We were planning on coming in flat. The projections were flat, but then at the very end, the legislation passed a bill that gives a certain class within the FRS a 1.5% retirement benefit COLA for the rest of their life after they retire. Well, that cost got passed on to the taxpayers through us, and that cost us another $1.3 million that's going to have to come out of our budget. And then new positions. We are in desperate need of new positions. We had more than 20 positions initially in the budget, but when we sat down with your staff and started figuring out exactly how much money was coming into the county this year, we realized that we were not going to be able to grow the sheriff's office where we needed to be. So these positions are crucial for us. A public records position, if you look at what we've done in the past few years at the sheriff's office, we've come online with body cameras. Everything we do is a public record. Those public records coordinators, the people that sit in those back offices have to watch every single piece of evidence in video minute by minute, and they're inundated every day with public records requests, as I know you guys are also. But that's a crucial position for us. A pretrial coordinator, for those that are in the audience that don't know what that is, pretrial release actually takes some of the pressure off of our jail, takes some of the people that couldn't bond out, that are not violent offenders, that are not likely to reoffend in the community, but it takes pressure off the jail by putting them in a program where they're based on a probationary status pre the disposition of their case. So it saves us a lot of money. It saves us the daily cost of them being in jail. And it's cheaper to have them out of jail, providing that they have the right structure in place. So that pretrial coordinator position, or the pretrial position, is actually a cost savings at the end. And then 4 new correctional deputies. We've been running at baseline in the jail for quite a period of time. Our average daily population there is 585 people, which that's a lot of people to keep hoteled wash staff, medical, all the things that go on in the jail. And if somebody calls out sick, an employee calls out sick in the jail right now, it's automatic overtime. So you're paying for the person to be out sick plus time and a half for somebody to backfill them. So we're paying for it 2.5 times. So those 4 positions, hopefully at the end, while on the front side cost more money, it should be a cost savings in the end. And then other things that our drivers, again, mentioned earlier by your staff, increased health insurance costs, rising costs of technology and hardware, software, and equipment. I'll give you one example. Fuel. Martin County Sheriff's Office uses 1,000 gallons of fuel a day. And you know the fuel prices have now doubled. So our budget last year was blown out of the water, and we pay a significant amount of money just for fuel. And that's one small example, really, of the things that we're trying to pay for this year. Our CFO put in a budget comparison, really trying to show you that we have been fiscally thoughtful in this budget presentation. FY14, we came in needing really 41.5% of the ad valorem taxes that came in. This year, we came in asking for 35% of that. So we have been, again, careful to ask for what we need. We have good employees. If we didn't have such good employees, I'd be asking for a whole lot more money to try to offset that. But this is really, again, a short presentation based on all the work that's been done. So I will kick it to you guys, or commissioners, for questions if you wish.
Questions for the sheriff? Who sets the Florida retirement system rates?
That came through the state legislature, so it's law. And it's something that we didn't get a chance to weigh in on. Again, they were projecting flat, which we were really encouraged by, and then at the last hour, they're talking about property tax reform, but then they turn around and really stung us with a $1.3 million bill. And that's a recurring bill. That's going to keep going indefinitely forever.
Yeah, and no property tax reform either, even though our property taxes have increased by 62% in the last 7 years.
Yes.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, thank you for coming out and bringing your team with you to explain. I appreciate the number side. Can you give us sort of like some of the daily numbers of people on the road, arrests, give us like a little crime stats? I think what happens is when you do a real good job, people start to, not necessarily everyone, but some people take it for granted.
Sure.
That we don't have crime here. I don't understand why we would have to pay as much as we are, is some of the comments that I hear. Why is the sheriff or fire rescue's budget so large? We're a small county. Can you share some of what happens on a day-to-day basis with your department?
I will give you a brief snapshot. So in the last year, we've answered 175,603 calls for service, 175,000 calls for service in Martin County. We worked $16 million worth of fraud. That's just one tiny department within the Martin County Sheriff's Office. But Martin County lost $16 million in fraud. We Baker Act, for those that don't know what that means, those are people that are mentally ill, that are not going to jail, but they kind of fall in the category of needing help, where we can force them to go get help. We Baker Acted 584 people. We worked 29 suicides, so these are people that actually took their own lives here in Martin County. That's one, by the way, at least every 2 weeks. To date this year, we've had 29 traffic fatalities. Traffic is a huge deal in Martin County. We've had a lot of issues, especially on 710, and I do appreciate you working with us to push on the state to make that road better. We've had 4 out there on that road alone this year. Crashes that did not result in fatalities, we worked 3,338 crashes. We made 5,188 arrests. Of those, 100 were traveling criminals coming to Martin County to take advantage of us, stealing GPS devices out of boats, doing high-end fraud, doing high-end car thefts, doing all the things that you would imagine that we deal with every day. And we average in our jail, like I already mentioned, 585 inmates a day in our jail. And that's just a very brief snapshot of a lot of work that goes on each and every day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Hetherington.
Yes. Thank you, Sheriff, for being here, and all of your staff. You said 12%, we replenished 12% of our staff, and I assume that's through retirement and/or vacancies. How are we doing recruiting and retaining, and how's our competitiveness with counties to our north and south?
So, Commissioner, you asked me like 3 questions, so if I don't get them quite right, we'll revisit it. But last year, I came in here and did a presentation and said, we're going to focus on hiring the positions that we already have budgeted but are not filled. We were desperately low. We filled 85 of those positions. That's 12% that we've hired in the last year. Most of those were not from retirement. We were having this constant turnover. People, because we were pulling from all over the country, they were coming from out of the state. They'd come to Martin County, and then they'd look over the fence, oh, Palm Beach County is just right down the road. Even though they have no idea the dynamics and the difference that's down there, they would go down there for a few more dollars. So we raised their salaries. We got them competitive with Palm Beach County. Not quite what they're making, but enough to where it wasn't as beneficial for them to drive an hour down there, work a 12-hour shift, and drive an hour home. But we were able to almost get our road patrol complement to full capacity, which we have not been at in about 10 years. So we're good in that department. And we have only had in the last short period of time one person leave Martin County to go down to Palm Beach County. So we're doing really good on that part. As far as competitiveness, Palm Beach County's still higher than us. They're probably always will be higher than us. They're one of, if not the highest paid sheriff's office in the state of Florida. So we've got to keep them in sight. Port St. Lucie is neck and neck with us. They're a little ahead of us in some things. We're a little behind in other things. So we've got to keep them in sight. But this contract that we negotiated last year with the PBA keeps us in line. If I could pay our deputies, I know if you could, if I could pay them a whole lot more, I would, because they do work short and they do work really hard and they do an awesome job for the citizens of Martin County. Did I answer all three of your questions?
I think you did.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
And is this year 3 of the contract?
Year 2, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further questions?
Are we doing tentative things?
I don't know, you want to? Do you want to do tentative approval of each one of the constitutionals, or you want to wrap them up?
I'd make a motion to accept the tentatively approve the sheriff's proposed budget.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next up, we have the property appraiser who is here to do a brief presentation.
Let's get the sheriff's employees back on the job. Good morning.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am going to briefly give you a little bit of background on my budget, and then I would like to talk just briefly on the property tax amendment. So with that, I am Jenny Fields. I'm the Martin County Property Appraiser. I'm one of 5 of Martin County's constitutional officers. My primary role as the property appraiser is to value all the real and tangible personal property located in our county for ad valorem purposes. The property appraisers maintain their own budget. This is to prevent conflicts of interest and to ensure unbiased property valuations. This keeps us independent from the county commissions that set the tax rates and spend public funds. Each year, we carefully review every expenditure to ensure requested funding is reasonable, necessary, and supports our core responsibilities and mission. Throughout the year, our team of dedicated professionals work hard to identify operational efficiencies and cost savings wherever possible. This proposed budget reflects our continued commitment to fiscal responsibility while ensuring we meet our constitutional and statutory responsibilities to the citizens of Martin County. As part of the budget packets distributed to you, the board, on June 1st, we provided detailed exhibits and schedules outlining the proposed budget, the primary drivers, and the significant changes from the current fiscal year. Rather than reiterate that entire information this morning, I will briefly highlight on the key points. Our total proposed budget for fiscal year 2027 is just over $5.8 million. This reflects a modest overall increase of just under 3%. While our budget is approved by the Florida Department of Revenue, it is funded by you, the Board of County Commissioners. That funding portion is 96.2%. The majority of our increase this year of just under 3% reflects, as the sheriff stated, personnel-related costs that are largely outside of our control, including, as he said, the health insurance, retirement contributions, and contractual salary adjustments. The remaining increase of our budget is attributed to information technology, software licensing, and cybersecurity investments necessary to maintain reliable operations and protect taxpayer data. As additional information, the Department of Revenue has notified our office that they have completed their review of our budget submittal, and they have tentatively adopted it with no recommended changes. Our goal is to provide Martin County residents with exceptional service while responsibly managing public funds. We appreciate the board's continued partnership, and we welcome you to visit or contact our office anytime you have questions or concerns. As many of my fellow Florida property appraisers are doing during their budget workshops this year, I'd like to just, as I mentioned, take a few minutes to talk about the proposed constitutional amendment, if I may. Let me first begin by saying that the Martin County Property Appraiser's Office does not advocate for or against any ballot measure ever. My purpose this morning is to provide accurate, objective information so that residents can make informed decisions for themselves. So as you are aware, the Florida legislature has approved a proposed constitutional amendment titled Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes for the November general election. It will need 60% voter approval statewide to become law, and parts of it would become effective as early as January 1, 2027. The amendment makes two significant changes to taxable value. The first is it increases the homestead exemption over 3 years, the first being up to $150,000 in 2027, up to $250,000 in 2028, and then starting in 2029, it would be subject to inflation. The second major significant changes to taxable value is reduces the annual assessment cap for non-homesteaded properties from a 10% limit to down to a 5% limit. So you can imagine why our office has already received many, many phone calls, as I'm sure yours has as well. The number one question people ask our office is, so how much money am I going to save if this amendment passes? And the honest answer is, we don't know. In fact, no one knows today because property taxes are made up of several moving parts. That's why it's important to understand how a property tax bill is actually calculated, which is what I'm hoping to explain. Your property tax bill, if you can imagine, you get that in November, and it's made up of two parts, the top portion and the bottom portion. The first part, which is listed at the top, is the ad valorem part. That simply is Latin for according to value. These taxes are calculated by two components, your property's taxable value multiplied by the millage tax rate. The property appraiser's office determines the taxable value, and the taxing authorities determine the millage tax rates. Martin County currently has 10 taxing authorities. The second part of that bill at the bottom is non-ad valorem assessment fees. These are flat fees used to pay for specific services and infrastructure, and they will remain on the bill regardless of changes to your taxable value. They are established by local governing boards and taxing authorities, such as city councils, county commissions, and independent special districts. This proposed constitutional amendment affects only the first part, ad valorem taxes. It does not eliminate existing non-ad valorem assessments, nor does it prevent new assessments from being added in the future. It only changes one part of the calculation. Your final tax bill will depend on the millage tax rates adopted by the taxing authorities and the non-ad valorem assessments that will appear on your tax bill. And perhaps this is the most important point. A larger homestead exemption does not automatically mean a smaller tax bill. If this amendment passes, the property appraiser's office will be able to estimate what your taxable value is going to do. But there is no online calculator that you're going to find that will accurately tell you how much you'll save, because taxable value is only one part of the equation. Until taxing authorities adopt next year's millage tax rates and determine next year's non-ad valorem assessments, the actual impact on an individual's tax bill simply cannot be calculated. And that is the key point. Voters will make their decision this November, but the actual impact on the property tax bills won't be known until next year's budget process is complete. Only after taxing authorities adopt their budgets, set their millage rates, and finalize assessments will anyone know what the amendment means for an individual tax bill. So when people ask me, how much money am I going to save if this amendment passes? My answer today is the same. We simply do not know yet. That's why I encourage everyone to read the amendment, ask questions, and understand that if approved, the amendment would change how the taxable value is calculated, but it would not by itself determine your final tax bill. The actual financial impact will depend on the budget decisions made by the various taxing authorities during next year's budget cycle. I would just like to say, as a homeowner, as a taxpayer myself, I appreciate that many of the taxing authorities, including yourself, are already evaluating these different scenarios, preparing for potential fiscal impacts, and making that information publicly available will help residents better understand the amendment, how the amendment could affect local government services and their future tax bills. For anyone interested in learning more about this tax amendment, our office has published an article, a page under our news and announcements, and there you're going to find a summary of the amendment. We have a single-page educational handout that outlines everything you need to know about the amendment. And then we also conducted an estimated revenue impact, which we provided to all the taxing authorities about a week ago. That's on there. And then soon we will be publishing a FAQ, a frequently asked questions, which is being prepared in coordination with the Florida Association of Property Appraisers. So it will also be on that same page. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioner Capps?
Point of curiosity, how do you know when people are homesteaded and when they're not? Like, and is there a big problem with people claiming a homestead when they're actually not homesteaded? Because that's going to be a big factor with the tax referendum.
That's correct. Yes, we have actually a compliance department. As you can imagine, everyone likes to tell on their neighbors. So we have a lot of resources. We do a lot of investigations. And we do that because the laws are very strict when it comes to homestead exemption. The law tells us if for any reason we find out that you have a homestead exemption when you're not entitled to it, we are required to lien you back 10 years, including penalties and interest. So you can imagine we are very proactive when it comes to making sure the people that have homestead exemption actually have the homestead exemption. But we ask for all your identification, we ask for your voter's card, your social security, we run your vehicle registration, we make sure all the official documents have the situs address on them, and then we will, look at it if somebody asks. But we are anticipating, the language of the bill has not been given to us yet, but part of that amendment, it does say there will be stricter guidelines as to what constitutes a Florida resident, because you can imagine if you don't declare your Florida residency by December 31st of this year, and you want to come get homestead, you're going to have to wait 5 years until your waiting period is over. Then you'll get to have this benefit of this increased. So determining whether you're a Florida resident is probably going to be more than just give me your driver's license. So, and we haven't gotten that yet, but there will be stricter guidelines.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? I would just ask, this ballot measure is so important in Martin County. I'd ask that you come back and visit us again and make a more detailed explanation of
I'd
the
love to.
impacts to Martin County.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll move tentative approval of the property appraiser's budget.
Second.
Commissioner Vargas?
I thought we were listening to everybody's presentation rather than making moves and voting on this
Well, we
today.
just voted on the sheriff's budget.
Yeah, I understand, but, I mean, I thought we were supposed to be listening
asked
to everybody's
We wanted to do them
presentation.
by department.
we still have to tentatively approve.
Overall.
Overall, yeah.
We could do it all in one big motion at the end of the day, or we can do them as we go, but we still have to take votes somewhere in this meeting today, right?
That's correct. So by looking at each department, the idea is it gives you an opportunity to question or review specific items, and then we can have that discussion then. You can always bring things up again later on in the day, but it's just been the practice that we would tentatively approve, whether it's formal or informal, and at the end, the most important motion is just the final tentative millage rates that we can publish, that will then ultimately be mailed to all the residents. And then you'll have your most important vote will happen in September, when we have the hearings two public hearings that decide the actual final budget. So these are tentative approvals, and until your final vote in September, the budget is technically not final until the last vote is heard, which is I think some of you have described the laborious task of about 50 different motions that you have to go through of every line item's particular budget and fund. But what's the most important today is to ask questions or identify anything that you have concerns of or support of in regard to each department's budget. Thank you.
Commissioner Capps?
I would be good with one motion at the end of the day, if everyone else would, unless everybody wants to take 40 different votes throughout the day. I'd be fine with that at the end of the day, but.
Commissioner Campy?
Historically, since there's so many moving parts and there's so many departments in the constitutional, sometimes by having them, as we've been just started to do today, if there is concern by members, commissioners of a specific department, we can sort of set that one aside, versus if everyone is okay with the property appraiser's budget, we said, okay, that's one. But if there are some that are more complicated or controversial or don't have universal support, we can set those aside. But the ones that 5 of us say, okay, we sort of understand, like, if any of the 5 of us have an issue, just using as an example, libraries, then we won't take the vote on that. But if there are some where the 5 of us say, okay, I understand that that is what it is, then let's push those aside. If you wait until the end of the day to make a universal motion of a tentative approval, and there were little issues or concerns within the departments, now you're going backwards to look at, well, what were they? Unless you're keeping a little tally sheet along the way. It works. I mean, either way could work. I'm just thinking, from my experience, at the end of the day, you'd have to go back and say, okay, well, that department I had some questions on, and I thought that department could have had a tighter budget, or there were certain things about that one that I don't agree with. Then let's just vote on the ones that we tentatively approve. And if there are some that you don't tentatively approve, let's put those until the end of the day when you've seen the big picture, then we can discuss those as a suggestion.
Commissioner Vargas?
Okay, I've understood what you said, Commissioner Campy. However, I would like more opportunity to review this. I mean, these are numbers that are real. And if I would like to visit the property appraiser's office and sit and talk further, I would like to do that. We don't have to make a final decision until September. This is a huge year for us. So I don't understand why we have to say yes or no or put aside at this moment. I mean, this is a thinking process.
So what's most important today is that you do have to establish a tentative millage that does get noticed to all the public, and they will get a trim notice that has the tentative millage rate set. So that has to happen statutorily. We only have a short amount of time to do that. And so that is what we're doing through this workshop. you can continue to look at the budgets and then have additional discussions at the final public hearings. But, so today's meeting is important in establishing what is the tentative rate that we are going to publish to the public, and each property owner will receive in their trim notice. So that also establishes the maximum the county can charge in each millage, and it can only go down.
Yeah.
So today's is both a workshop on looking at each individual department or constitutional officer's budget and question it, and to establish that rate that's going to be published. There can be ongoing discussions about how those budgets are made or asked for, or, how it's put together. But from this point till the hearing, at the next hearing, the budget can never increase based upon after today. It could only go down.
I think it's very important to tentatively approve each department. I don't want to get to the end of this day and have taken no votes, and then there might be a commissioner who votes against the budget, and we don't know why. Because we haven't taken tentative votes along the way. I think that in an effort to appear as transparent as possible, that we should make clear how we feel about each department's budget. That's why they're presented department by department, instead of just given a budget, and that's why we're going to spend all day today and perhaps tomorrow reviewing this. I think it's a careful, transparent strategy for showing the entire content of our budget. Commissioner Vargas.
Okay, so again, this is the way that I look at this. There is a lot of information here. So if 4 of you say yes, I may say no. Can the millage rate be reduced further beyond today?
As I stated, this would be the maximum the millage could be charged, and yes, at the hearing, the commissioners, a majority of the board can lower the millage rate, could not raise it. Today would be the maximum millage rate that could be assigned is what we're asking for through this process.
Okay, so today we could ask for a lower millage rate, or is that later on then? The next hearing?
So the way we put together, the way we establish the millage rate is based upon the budget for each department that was prepared for. So you could ask for a lower millage rate. However, I would be asking for what services that we would be looking to change. So this is an opportunity to talk about the individual line items within the department budgets or the services they provide. And in that sense, we can have a discussion on how the budget is put together. And the result of that is ultimately both the revenue necessary to provide that, which in the case of ad valorem is reflected in the millage. So we build a budget simply based upon the expenditure, and the revenues needed to match that expenditure is the millage. Obviously, we have other departments too that don't rely on ad valorem, like utilities, and those we set through hearings on fees or utility bills. So anyway, so yes, today is a workshop. These are tentative budgets, but in the end, the wrap-up budget, which is very important, is to establish the individual millage rates for each fund, including MSTUs and general fund, so that we can notify the tax collector and property appraiser that the notices that go out to the public is the
Highest.
tentative rates.
Yeah.
Commissioner Capps.
I'll move we go with the chair's preference.
Well, there's already a motion and a second,
Oh, okay.
Right?
Good.
yeah, right? You made a motion, you seconded.
Okay. And remind me what that was.
Property
Property appraiser's tentative
That
budget.
work, oh, okay. And we're going to, well, my thing had to do with, you stated a preference to approve each and every budget as we go throughout the day. And do we need a separate motion on that?
No,
We're all good with that?
that's the way we've always done it.
Okay.
Commissioner Vargas?
Okay, so the way you've always done it, is this mandatory to do it this way, is my question.
No, it's just a more transparent way.
Well, yes, we're here discussing everything. The evidence has been laid out. However, in my mind, there may be more questions in the future before we have to make a final decision.
Okay, ask your questions about, and we're now talking about the property appraiser's budget. What further questions do you have?
Well, this deals with the total millage rate, too, at the end.
Well, that's not what we're discussing.
I understand that. I understand that. However, well, then I just, have to vote no, because I feel as if you all want to go forward quickly, and that's fine. That's your prerogative, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, then we'll allow you the opportunity to explain why you're objecting to the property appraiser's budget.
I'm not
Commissioner
objecting to her budget. I'm not objecting to her budget necessarily, but there may be other budgets that come up that I can't approve,
Okay.
and that's pretty much about it.
Are you saying that you don't want to cast any votes today at all, even
I
at the
thought
end?
this was a budget workshop to hear the presentation for every division, for every department, for every constitutional,
Without taking any votes all day,
without taking a vote.
all day long, even at the end? We have to take a vote at the end, at least.
And then-
That's required of us by law, right?
Is that true? Is by law?
It's by law to set the tentative millage rate today, so yes, we have to take a vote on the tentative millage rate. All these individual budgets go into the tentative millage rate, so it's important to establish each one so you can vote at the end of the day. That's why the presentations are. What you vote for today is not binding. The board can amend the budget in September as long as you're making it lower, the millage rate, but you still have opportunity to question budgets and make reductions in September. But yes, the vote for the millage rate is necessary today.
Okay, so the millage rate can be reduced, correct? Yes, I think that's the direction it needs to go in.
Commissioner Campy?
Thank you. Just for clarity for the folks watching, the budget process started several months ago. Today is not the first day. Today, in the months, weeks, and days leading up to this, the commissioners have met with the sheriff and constitutionals, department heads, to discuss the back and forth with our administrative staff. We've been working on this, hearing the information, doing our homework and research. Today is the day that the five of us together for the first time get to hear each other's opinions, because most people know the commissioners are not allowed to speak to each other outside of these meetings. So I have no idea what my colleagues are thinking until today. So today is not the first day of the process. It's been a process of research and investigation for months leading up to this. I think all of us have had the opportunity to meet with the constitutionals, to meet with the sheriff. I was there to discuss. So a lot of what we're hearing today from Ms. Fields, Ms. Davis, Ruth Ski, and Carolyn Timmon, and the sheriff, I've heard. I knew that what the budget's requests from the constitutionals. The department heads, I've had an opportunity to meet. You saw that there were 16 different groups. I've had the opportunity to meet with many of them, but I've also had the opportunity to meet with not only Ms. Murley and her staff, but with Mr. Donaldson, to hear what was going to happen today. The books were given to us a long time ago, and then when you review them, there were questions. There are concerns. The looming dark cloud or bright cloud is what will happen in November, and as you heard Ms. Field say, we've already, at least I have, I'm assuming my colleagues have as well, have already asked our staff to have those strategies in place. If it passes, what will the budget look like? If it doesn't pass, what will the budget look like? Now, if it doesn't pass, it doesn't mean that it's, Shangri-La. We're still always looking for budgets to be as tight as possible. I think even if it doesn't pass, the virtue that it was even considered should remind us that the residents and taxpayers want the leanest budget that we can do. Part of today, by having the different departments explain this is what my budget has been, and this is why I'm looking for an increase, even though I know most of them were told not to have any increases. There are certain things beyond the control of individual department heads. That's where we come in. But to clarify, we'll set a millage tentative, and then, yes, Commissioner Vargas, it can go down. It can never go above the number that we set today, or if need be, tomorrow.
There is a motion to tentatively accept the property appraiser's budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Who's next?
Next up, we have our Supervisor of Elections, Vicki Davis.
Good morning, Ms. Davis.
Good morning, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to thank Stephanie, Tracy, Shelby, budgeting staff, and finance. They're always very helpful, so thank you for what you do. And all of your staff, Don, I appreciate everything that each department does to help us in the elections and keep the process running smoothly. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And you have before you an annual report from the Elections Office. I just wanted to go back and review a little bit with you and then tell you where we currently are. And if you have any questions about our budget, please don't hesitate to ask. Before you, you do have in the annual report a number of statistics. If you look at pages 4 and 5, you'll see our current registered voters, the number, how they break out. I thought it would be helpful, interesting for you all to see some of the numbers that we deal with on a daily basis, how voters are registered to vote, how many voter registrations we process. In 2025, there were 13,631, and so far this year, as of June 30th, 10,419. You can see by gender how they break out as well. And then on pages 8 and 9, there are some really good district voter registration information that would be good for you as commissioners. That's on page 8, and then on page 9, we have asked every time Kiri and I and staff are out in the community and making presentations about removal of voters from our database. How often does that take place? It's called list maintenance, and we are involved in list maintenance on a daily basis, and you can see a listing, the reason for removal. Last year in '25, we removed 1,847 who deceased, 3,876 who moved out of the county, out of the state, 135, felony convictions, 138, a request from voters, 78, just to be removed. Those who were adjudicated mentally incompetent, we removed 6, and 5 for not being a U.S. citizen. So far this year, we've removed 945 who deceased. We receive that information on a daily basis from the state of Florida. Those who moved out of the county, 2,520 so far this year. Those who moved out of state, 66, felony convictions, 70, requests from voters, 44, mentally incompetent, 5, and the state has run our entire database through the SAVE federal database, so we've removed 21 non-U.S. citizens. The other important information right underneath that are the number of petitions that we have verified. Local candidate petitions, 8,093. Statewide candidate petitions, 1,885. And then the citizen initiative petitions, 13,160 of those we verified. But I can tell you, we touched them more than the 13,000 times. They were touched many, many times this past year. And then below that is just a circle that lays out the competencies, what we do on a daily basis, plus what we do throughout the election cycle for election preparation, for election night reporting. And as you know, we go by state law. On page 11, I wanted to point out our canvassing board. Thank you, Commissioner Campy and Commissioner Vargas. Commissioner Vargas is our alternate commissioner this year. I've been sharing with the community that it's not really up to me and my staff to oversee this election. It's up to a state-set, mandated canvassing board, which is made up of 3 individuals, a county judge. My judge has been Kathleen Roberts. She's been my judge for 22 years now. Myself as supervisor of elections and a county commissioner, and then we're required to have alternates. So the alternate county judge is Darren Steele, Judge Steele. So thank you for helping us with this election cycle. And I'm sorry the sheriff left already, but on page 12, we really have a strong partnership with our law enforcement. We really appreciate the sheriff and his staff. He always assigns either a lieutenant or a captain to me. I have Lieutenant McCarthy for this election cycle. We've already met as a team. In fact, we've had a Zoom meeting with the FBI out of Miami. And we've also participated in an FBI training session, swatting session via Zoom. So that has been very helpful and provides really good information for my staff and also for the sheriff's staff because it's focused on elections. Same thing with Chief Z. He's been in on those same meetings and Zoom meetings as well. And then on page 13, just some community highlights. We've had 234 students register to vote this past year, 22 office tours. We like to open up the office so that voters can see the behind the scenes. Kiri calls it beyond the lobby. Many residents and voters have been to the office, but not beyond the lobby. So we like to take them into the warehouse and show them all of the safeguards that we have in place. 61 community events we have attended, 4 student art contests, 15 nursing homes and assisted living facilities we visited, and we go in and offer supervised voting in those facilities as well. 3 of our staff have attended Martin Cares program. Thank you for that opportunity. They always enjoy it. And 6 community and school back-to-school food drives. So just some additional information for you. We mailed out over almost 12,000 vote-by-mail ballots last week. They're starting to come in already. They've been receiving them starting on Saturday, voters have. And our sample ballot is out on our website, martinvotes.gov. Martin Votes does have a lot of good, pertinent information for this upcoming election. And looking at our budget for what you're looking at today, our increase is a 6.3% increase, and that's due to benefits for my personnel. And also, this is for the general election that's coming up. So, any questions I can answer?
Any questions? I have a question.
Sure.
Did I read that Judge Roberts is retiring?
She is.
So is this going to be her last year to canvass?
It will be her last official year, yes.
Boy, are we going to miss her.
Yes.
She's terrific.
She may still be able to come back, though, as a paid employee. Paid.
So she can be a retired
individual.
county judge and she can serve?
Yes.
Terrific. She's wonderful.
Yes, she is. She knows the process very, very well.
Fix those machines.
Yes, those ballots, for sure. We call her the ballot whisperer.
Yes, she
Yeah.
is.
She's awesome.
Any questions?
No, but just a comment. This is very nice, very nicely done, and I will move tentative approval.
Thank you, Stacy.
Second.
Thank you.
Very impressive document
you.
here.
Enjoy it.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next is,
So next up, I'm taking the reins for everybody else.
okay,
So unfortunately, the clerk of the circuit court is serving on a very important clerk-related board at the state. So she's unable to attend today's workshop, but I'm going to go ahead and briefly present a statement from the clerk. The clerk's proposed FY27 budget is $3.62 million. It represents an increase of approximately $237,000 or 7% over FY26. This is a request that reflects the cost of maintaining countywide services, fulfilling the clerk's statutory and constitutional responsibilities, and continuing to serve the public effectively. This budget supports the clerk's mission to ensure transparency, fiscal accountability, and due process by maintaining board records, managing county investments and financial accounts, auditing county operations, which includes the annual independent audit, administering payroll and Florida retirement system compliance, and providing residents with a formal process to challenge property valuations. The primary cost drivers included the proposed cost of living adjustments and increased health benefit costs consistent with the board's proposal for county employees, and the addition of a half-time position to support specialty local court operations. There's also a $75,000 increase for internal audit services to address the county's audit plan and identified risk priorities. So that's what I have for the clerk. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer them. If not, I can pass them on to the clerk for any questions.
Commissioner Capps.
Move approval.
Second.
Any further questions? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Also contained for the remainder of the constitutional officers, you have sheriff non-departmental, and this budget it shows a large increase due to there's an E911 one-time upgrade. If you recall, on my OMB items, there's been quite a few grants that have come through for an E911 upgrade. This is going to be the local matches that are helping fund those projects. We also have the state judicial and state agencies of the 19th Judicial Court. Martin County represents approximately 22% of the 4 counties, and there is a reduction this year due to mostly our percentage of this is going to sound more dead bodies from the medical examiner's office, as well as reductions in guardian ad litem that is showing that decrease. And last but not least is the tax collector is showing an increase, which also includes the money that we have to pay in estimated fees to the tax collector. So she is showing a 6.70% increase, which is mostly fee offset. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions for you for those constitutionals.
Just to be consistent, let's keep these separate. Take sheriff non-departmental, state judicial, and state agencies separate, and tax collector separate.
I make a motion for sheriff's non-departmental
Second.
tentative approval.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. There is
Move approval of state judicial, state agencies?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And the tax collector.
Move approval of the tax collector.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Okay, we've kind of reached a proper stopping point, so let's take a 10-minute break, and we will resume with the county departments.
I'm gonna read your stuff. Power broken for preschool?
Yeah, we're power broken.
I wish I would have known. I have tons of them.
We are back.
Hell yeah. For you guys, absolutely.
We are back in order. We are taking up the remainder of our budget hearing. Where are we starting here?
Administration Department. And Mr. George Stokas will be presenting the administration department.
Please proceed.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, George Stoke, Assistant County Administrator. I'm here today to represent the Administration Department, which provides a broad spectrum and award-winning suite of services that support the county operations and the community. In addition to administrative oversight and organizational support, this department manages programs that assist veterans and residents, promotes tourism and economic activity, pursues legislative funding opportunities, and helps ensure that county services are delivered effectively. On the first slide here, I'd like to point out that the Administration Department provides the support services that allow every county department to operate efficiently and effectively in order to serve the public. The fiscal year 27 budget maintains current service levels while addressing personnel and operating cost increases. The only staffing change is converting an existing contractual public records position to a county employee, improving the responsiveness and consistency of that division within the Administration Department. Let's go to the next slide. Administration provides the planning, financial oversight, and operational support behind county services that serve the public. Taxpayer dollars support responsible budgeting, competitive purchasing, grant management, communications, public records, and legislative advocacy. The department also assists veterans in obtaining earned federal benefits and administers housing and human services programs that leverage outside funding. These services help departments operate efficiently while keeping government transparent and accountable. Next slide, please. Last year, the Administration Department processed more than 1,400 public records requests, completed nearly all board agendas on time, and maintained a nationally recognized budgeting practices. Purchasing generated more than $316,000 in rebate revenue, while processing over 8,400 purchase orders. Veteran Services is projected to secure more than $8 million in federal benefits for local veterans, returning over $22 for every county dollar invested. Next slide, please. Community impact. Administration also brings outside resources into Martin County that reduce reliance on local tax dollars through our state, federal, and private philanthropic organizations. Tourism marketing continues, generating economic activity and the tourist development tax revenues that support visitor-related programs. Health and Human Services administers more than $5 million in state and federal grant funding that expands services to residents. Legislative efforts secured approximately $2 million in state appropriations, while housing programs continue to assist local families. Together, these programs maximize outside funding to help deliver additional services without increasing the burden on local taxpayers. So in closing, administration exists to support every county service delivered to our residents. Administration supports every county department through financial stewardship, operational support, and transparent government. The fiscal year 27 budget continues to providing these essential services while focusing on efficiency, accountability, and the value for Martin County taxpayers, residents, and visitors. And behind me are probably most of the administration department. If not, they're probably in the hall waiting to see if they need to be asked any questions. And I'm more than happy to address any questions, comments, or concerns.
Questions for Mr. Stokas? Commissioner Vargas?
There are a lot of silos here, okay? This has gone up to almost 7%. I cannot agree with this. There are areas that can be trimmed.
Mr. Stokas, this is for, in general, life and health insurance throughout the county. There are all increases in every case, but in some cases, they're double what they were last year. Why the wide swing in life and health insurance?
I can answer that, Commissioner. So life and health insurance, we did experience an 11% increase in health insurance rates this year for both the employee and the employer side. But we budget based on what the actual elections are per employee. So if somebody went from a single coverage to a family coverage, that would be reflected in those budget amounts. So it's really indicative of the person who's in the position right now versus what they were last year.
Okay. Further questions for Mr. Stokas? I don't see any.
If there was concern about increases, do we want to discuss them now?
I don't think, how much control do we have over the increases?
So the health insurance, it is what our benefits consultant have projected for the next fiscal year. For many years, the county has been able to essentially outperform national averages on county health insurance. We had been able to maintain about, over the last, I think, 15 years, only about a 3.8% increase. But unfortunately, the costs are rising in health insurance. It just, this year was a whammy based on everyone's elections and the claims that are coming in.
And what percentage of health insurance does Martin County pay for?
With the split for county versus employee, I think at this moment is about 72% county, and then the remainder is on the employee.
And the 72% is discretionary?
That is what the county puts into the total premium cost.
Question on the full-time employee. It's one of the only ones for the whole county, except the sheriff had a couple?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Well,
There's
here's
two
my-
for
Here's my
the
question.
admin.
We had the head of the department down here recently. I remember it used to just be the aides handled the rare request for public record, and then we picked a person to be sort of responsible for it. And then it was Sangita, and then she turned into a department, and then we added employees. Mr. Stokas, can you just give us a brief recap when people say, well, why are you hiring people? The sheriff talked about public records, his or body cams, where people are asking for the body cams so they can post them on social media. I don't think that's the same. But what I have seen, and I think all of the commissioners had, we're starting to get public records requests from AI bots that are asking for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of information going back years. Can you explain that department a little bit and how that, like a couple of years ago, didn't exist and now it's a big deal?
Yeah, I believe it really didn't start to exist until about 2011, Commissioner. What this county has seen is an incremental increase in public records requests, both from legal purposes. Also, we generate quite a bit of media. I know the sheriff was talking about body cameras. We have other cameras that have to go and be looked at. I think the biggest issue for public records, from my recollection, is now that before we can hand those simple records out, we have to go through them with a fine-tooth comb and make sure we're not giving out information that's not supposed to be publicly released. Certain employees in certain positions, their things have to be erased, such as addresses or social security numbers, financial information, and so forth. So the public records division under administration has grown, but that whole sector of work has grown even more in a larger and alarming rate, and we are responsible to produce it in a reasonable amount of time. And if not, you do face legal consequences. So I don't remember off the top of my head if we've been challenged legally yet. I'm sure a county attorney could tell us that, but we do have to provide a transparent government and provide those records when requested, and there's lots of requests. I think I said about 1,400. My experiences when I've gone to conferences is that we have a very top-ranked thinking, I'm not sure if they're award-winning, but Public Records Department, we definitely are leading the way.
Thank you.
Commissioner Capps?
This is a general comment that applies to all things in the budget that I think is good to keep in mind. When looking at the growth of budgets in governments, you need to remember two things. One is inflation, and then the other one that we often forget about is the growth of the community that requires additional levels of service and additional manpower to service a growing community. Martin County has done a very good job at not growing too fast. It's usually about 2% a year, but it is growing. And that is a factor when looking at budgets as well. And so let's all keep that in mind in addition to the inflation.
Commissioner Vargas?
So what has been the growth in the county, Mr. Donaldson? I think I asked you that question about a week ago.
The growth in the county, it's about 2 or 3%, as Commissioner Capps stated. In terms of population, the administration budget, which most affected today was what we talked about, is public records, where we've actually are using a contracted services, and we've been losing people as we train them. So converting that to an FTE is going to help us keep up with that better. But in terms of administration, that's principally our, it's a multitude of divisions, our number of purchase orders. Every area we're seeing increases in uses within administration. Our Veteran Services group is seeing more veterans and helping more folks out. So everybody is seeing increases that in some areas is disproportionate to our population growth, as our Veteran Services has been recognized as providing good services. We're getting more people coming in to see them to get the benefits that they deserve because they're providing that type of service. So each division, certainly our procurement division, has seen significant amount of procurement for as we keep bidding out things to try to save money and outsource their various activities. So we do see in many areas growth that exceeds the population growth.
And if I may, Commissioners, also captured within the administration budget, because it is a pretty broad spectrum, is it's notable to mention the tourism office that is contained within here. About half of the total increase to administration is just based on budgeted revenues that we are expecting for the tourist development tax that are contained within that budget. So we have to budget for those revenues if we're expecting them. So that is part of the increase, half the increase for the whole administration department, about $400,000.
Just a comment on something that Mr. Donaldson said. Maybe a year or two ago, we had several public comment speakers who were veterans who were concerned about getting into veteran services. And when we reorganized that department, we've heard a lot of good feedback from our veterans in our community about them receiving services. So I think that was a very smart and valuable allocation or reallocation of the way that department is set up. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Capps?
Speaking of the Veterans Services, I was interested or intrigued to learn that that is a statutory requirement that each county have a veterans office. That's not an optional thing.
Right.
It's state mandated preemption or state mandated.
Tentative approval? I'll move tentative approval of the
Second.
administration.
Any further discussion? There is a motion and a second to tentatively approve administration. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
That motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Vargas dissenting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is
Next
airport.
up, we have Airport Andrew McBean, the Airport Director, here to present.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew McBean, Airport Director, Witham Field, Martin County Airport. This morning, last year, the budget for the airport was $2.3 million. We're looking for $2,465,128 in the fiscal year 27 tentative budget. This reflects a 6.7% change in the budget. Commissioners, it's important to note that the airport is an enterprise fund, which means that the airport is a county department that functions very similar to a business. It generates revenues to cover its own capital and maintenance costs. It is not funded by the ad valorem tax, and it's not paid for by the Martin County taxpayers. That being said, Commissioners, some budget consideration this year is the increased cost of doing business, many of which are inflationary, such as janitorial, landscaping, and security, as well as the ongoing maintenance of Witham Field in a safe and serviceable condition as required by both state and federal law. Airport divisions include administration, which is myself, the business operations manager, and the airport operations supervisor. The airport operations division, which is a combination of both airport operations coordinators and airfield maintenance technicians. And then the Customs and Border Protection office there, which provides significant revenue for the airport and serves as a public service for both pleasure and business travelers. The airport also has support from other county departments such as administration, IT, public works, and general services, just to name a few. Some of the services that the airport provide in fiscal year 27 and previous, if not the most important service that the airport provide, would be its economic impact on Martin County. And this has been the case since 1928, March of 1928, when the airport was established during an economic downturn in the community. Today, the airport provides $599 million of added value from business activities. Those are businesses that are on the airport or in the community as a result of the airport. For example, if someone flies into the airport, they'll need a hotel room, somewhere to stay. They'll need to go to a restaurant, they'll need to rent a car, and they'd like to enjoy the amenities that Martin County has to provide. The airport supports 6,858 jobs either directly on the airport or as a result of jobs being produced in the community from those business activities. The airport also supports $662 million in payroll, which is extremely important because a lot of those dollars are being turned over back into community and spent by the individuals who live here and work here, for a total economic outpoint of $1.3 billion on Martin County community. In addition to this, the airport services are to ensure a safe and fully operational airport environment in compliance with both state and federal regulations, to deliver exceptional service for the international travelers through the Customs and Border Protection facility. We have surveyed 95% customer satisfaction rate there, and to maintain and operate the REACH Center for Aviation Workforce Development, fostering education, training, and building a sustaining talent pipeline. The image you see here in the middle is our taxi lane rehabilitation project, which the airport worked very closely with the state and the FAA to pause this project, which reduced significant impacts to businesses on the airport and in the community. In addition to that, airport staff administers state and federally funded projects, and we manage the airport noise program by educating pilots and airport users of the voluntary curfew and the compliance. And we also engage communities to increase public awareness of the airport's economic, social, and employment benefits. Services are the numbers, Commissioners. So based aircraft, 425. What this number represents is there are 425 Martin County citizens that are based at the Martin County Airport. They depend heavily on my staff to ensure that the lights are working, the pavement is in good repair, the AWAS, the weather system is working, and that they have a safe and serviceable airport to fly into and out of. International aircraft operations. We see 2,000 aircraft cleared through the Customs and Border Protection facility. Survey shows that 50% of these travelers are Martin County residents traveling for pleasure purposes, and the other 50% are Martin County business owners traveling for business purposes. And again, we have a 95% customer satisfaction rate with that facility. Regulated garbage, 275 bags. Those are the individual bags that my staff has to dispose of as trained by the United States Department of Agriculture to protect local agriculture industry, such as the state of Florida and the United States agricultural industry. Noise curfew letters, 542 individual letters mailed out to noise curfew operators to remind them that the airport is situated in a densely populated area and to use noise abatement procedures where necessary or to avoid flying if possible. Security corrective actions. These are 25 individual times that my staff was either preventatively addressing a security issue on the airport or proactively addressing security issues on the airport. And in security connections, 525. These are the number of citizens that we've met with individually and educated them as to the historical, social, and economic impact of the airport. In the corner here, you see one of those citizen connections, which was Bring Your Kids to Work Day in 2026. That aircraft is a base tenant, Dr. Villar. That's his Stearman, which is a training biplane, fabric wings, and a wooden propeller. The FBOs also brought out fuel trucks and tugs to show the different career opportunity that's available at the airport. Precision Jet Center brought out an aircraft that they do maintenance on, and with AmeriClub opened their hangars to allow the children to go and see other more interesting aircraft there. And with that, Commissioners, again, just a remind, the airport is an enterprise fund. It is a county department that operates with its own revenues and not by the taxpayers' dollars. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Capps?
Could you recap about the garbage thing? I didn't quite get that.
I was going to ask the same thing.
So, part of having the Customs and Border Protection facility there is that we need to be able to dispose of or sterilize any foreign fruits or meats or unprocessed items coming into the country. So we have to destroy that so that
Via barbecue?
yes, an incinerator, so that any pests that could be contained within those items do not destroy the Florida agricultural industry or the United States agricultural industry.
Right, and I had one more. On the revenue side, you know, when the customs facility has revenue from two different sources, one is aviation and one is marine. It looks like there's not a lot of revenue there on the marine side. Is that when, like, somebody takes a boat ride to the Bahamas and they come back and, like, how does that work? Like, do they do that ahead of time, or do they take their boat out of the water at Sanskrit and then come over and see you after that, or?
Correct. So when the facility opened initially, the boaters were required to come in and report to the officer. The officer could inspect their vessel if necessary and then clear them into the country. However, Customs and Border Protection has since launched an app where they can do this via their mobile device, and some vessel are still required to come in upon request if they don't do it successfully in the app.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, Andrew, have a question here. Airport administration, how many employees do you have under that heading?
That's three.
Regular salaries? Yeah.
3 employees.
3 employees for regular salaries?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. And then you have another page here that talks about airport, regular salaries. How many employees do you have? That's 645, 511?
That's the operations. That is 3 in airport operations and 4 in airport maintenance.
4 in what?
Airport maintenance.
Maintenance. 7 people.
Further questions?
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now take up the building department. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Doherty, Director of the Building Department. Today, I have with me Assistant Building Official Josh Ney behind me. Today, we're presenting our Building Department budget to you and an overview of what we do. The Building Department has functions of enforcing Statute 553 building construction standards. We also do some local items such as code enforcement and derelict vessel. 553, Statute 553 requires every jurisdiction to follow certain rules. The main things we do is enforce the Accessibility Code of Florida. It's more restrictive than the federal, such as our parking spaces are different, and private clubs are not exempt from the Accessibility Code as the federals do. We do the Florida Energy Code, which is a little more restrictive than the Federal Energy Code, but we have to enforce that. And then most important function on a daily basis is the Florida Building Code. That's administered by the Florida Building Commission, which is established membership by the governor, 17-member board that we answer to. Every jurisdiction must have a building official in Florida by that statute. It must be licensed through the International Code Council and then also licensed by additional testing in Florida. With that, we have plan reviewers and inspectors that also must be licensed through the International Code Council as well as Florida's licensing. And we also work through the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations to achieve those goals. Over and above that, we do other things that aren't necessarily written in the job description. We do milestone inspection monitoring, which is a direct result of the Surfside collapse down in south, and we monitor the protocol associated with all the inspections of the condominiums in the county. We also do hurricane prep. We look at when a hurricane's come, what we can do to keep all the construction sites aware and safe as possible. We do emergency management training and staffing. We just recently had to create some protocol associated with Senate Bill 180 to address that and recovery. We do post-damage assessment. As soon as the winds get down to 40 miles an hour, we immediately come in and work with the property appraiser to do damage assessment so that it can be all turned into the state emergency management to make sure we're FEMA eligible and our residents are able to get help from FEMA if deemed the county is eligible. We are evaluated by the Community Rating Service, which was established by FEMA through ISO. ISO comes in, does a full analysis of what we do, how we do it, number of inspections, number of plan reviews, staff we have, and qualifications of each. We recently had our audit. The results have not been turned to us yet, but we're expecting them very soon. We do community outreach. We're required to do that as part of our Community Rating Service and training in ISO. Other things we do is unsafe structures. We have two types. We have emergency unsafe structures and more of the permanent nature. I typically get about 15 calls a year for emergency, which means someone ran into a building with a car. There's a high concentration of those on nights and weekends. Probably 10% really happen during the day, and a lot of them are weekends. I got a call an hour before the Super Bowl that someone was coming home to set up their party and went right through the garage door, through the garage, over a bicycle and into the laundry room. So they come all times. People run into trailers and knock them off. They run into houses. We were called out earlier this year on one that was actually attempted murder with a vehicle into a house. So it can be anything, and we provide that service. We also do the permanent ones where someone has not maintained their home and it's in danger of collapse, or maybe there was a fire and they haven't done anything. We've had them as goal is always compliance. We've had people comply. We've had some that have gone 20 years where they're tied up in trust and probate, and we have to work with the county attorney's office, the sheriff, and even go to court to get access into them, because that's a very tricky thing sometimes. Other things we do, recently we now have to do waivers for certain permits that may be exempt under the new law that went into effect July 1, so we've had to set up a whole protocol and software to monitor that. We need to keep that separate and distinct from other permits for our community service rating. Other things we do optional that are not mandated at the local level is licensing. That's under Chapter 489. We have elected, the board has elected to have a local licensing board that can license contractors at the local level. Goes back many years. The success of that is that someone can come in on the local level, appear before your board, the board that has been appointed by the commission, and be able to qualify to take tests. Back in the day, 25-some years ago, everyone had to go take a test in Orlando. It was mainly run by the state. It was all paper. Today, it's electronic. Many local jurisdictions has opted to not have local licensing because of technology. But we currently do that at the local level. If we did not do it, it would be all through the state licensing system in Tallahassee. We also monitored unlicensed contractors. We have people go look for that, because many times you have individuals want to take advantage of the public, and we try to make sure that everyone's licensed. On the local level, we have code enforcement that takes care of the local rules, such as high grass, someone living in an RV on the property, trash, chickens in the backyard. We get a little bit of call of everything. We go out and investigate that. In our funding, too, we cover the magistrate who acts as a judge to hear any cases that are brought before them, and counsel that represents us before the magistrate. We also do lien searches when people want to do a real estate transaction or refinance or that type of thing. We do about 4,000 of those a year. They look for any outstanding code enforcement liens or any open permits, that type of things of that nature. The others is derelict vessels. Derelict vessels are actually a law enforcement determination. Once a vessel has been determined derelict, they give us a letter and say they've adjudicated, they've run their process, have determined it's derelict. The majority of those come from the sheriff. Sometimes we get them from the City of Stuart Police, or Fish and Wildlife can give those too. Once that is determined, we are responsible for removal. Our removal generally takes 15 to 20 days. If we opted not to do that and let FWC do it, you're 15 to 20 months. So we are the leading group in terms of turning them over. How we fund that, we aggressively and pursue grants through the Florida Inland Navigation District. Every year we are able to obtain one so far, and we anticipate doing that again this year. We have one person who runs that, as well as the support staff that goes with it. Other items we do is some training and community outreach. As I mentioned, many people want to know, can I do this, can I do that, how do I do that? So we reach out and provide that support. We have been requested by various community organizations and whatnot to follow through. We also have a team we call Blue Team. Blue would be an acronym for builder licensing, unpermitted, and expired. We generally get about 30 expired permits a week where we have to go out and tell people to close it. Many times the contractor will go out and just do something simple, change a hot water heater, and never get an inspection. So we don't want to leave that open, because when that person goes to finance or sell the house or what have you, then it's a bigger issue. So we try to preempt that up front. And then probably the most important thing we've taken over since the retirement of Sarah Woods, we provide the brownies for these meetings every day. So. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Capps.
So tell us about hurricanes and how that affects your budgeting and whether additional resources are ever needed and where you get them.
Well, there's a couple different items into that preparation as we go out and look to see what we can do to preemptively make the community as safe as possible. We monitor it. We actually staff the Emergency Operations Center during the hurricane, and then immediately when we are allowed to travel again, which is 40 miles an hour, our staff immediately comes in to go out and do the evaluation for FEMA. In terms of, I previously mentioned Senate Bill 180, we have to set up a backup facility where we could operate if our building was destroyed, and we set that up. We put it on our website. And I didn't mention earlier, in terms of operating, we also act as the building official for the village of Indiantown, and we are the backup for the city of Stuart and for the town of Sewell's Point. We have previously done the same for Ocean Breeze and the town of Jupiter at different times. So we try to make sure that everything we possibly can do to avoid ahead of time is there. We have backup facilities so that if people come in and want services and we don't have a facility, we have a backup in Indiantown, and they're with us because if a storm hits, most likely it's diminished by the time it gets out to Indiantown. We can use another facility in the county to the south if we need to do that. In terms of additional resources, a recent passed legislation ask us to go ahead and go into interlocal agreements or some type of agreement with other counties or outside agencies, and that has been put in place through the State Association of the Building Officials and Inspectors Association. So we have pulled that so that you can actually go to that resource and get other counties. One of the challenges you have is that if Tampa and Martin County did it, well, they may have 10 times the needs we do, so we couldn't begin to drain our whole staff to go over. So you try to somehow match them up size-wise. Secondly, we try to look for someone else who uses our software, such as Acela, so that if they come to help us or we go to help them, our staff immediately knows the software they're using. So we look at those two jointly. Additionally, the new legislation, the Senate House Bill 803, required the state of Florida to develop contracts with outside agencies, private providers to help, but they also put in a provision that building officials, building inspectors, and plan reviewers that are licensed to the International Code Council in other states, but not in Florida, would be empowered to come help us in an emergency declared by the governor. So those are all the measures that have been put in place. The state is currently developing those contracts. The group of the Association of Florida Building Official Inspectors of Florida already has in place some mutual aid.
One more. When municipalities call upon your services, you mentioned that you were a backup for all the other towns and our city governments in our county, or I believe most of them anyway. Do they pay a fee to you when you do an inspection?
I'm sorry. Yes, we have an hourly rate, a fee. It's an interlocal agreement that's been through this board, signed by both, and it's in place. And we bill them at the end of the month by the hour.
Further questions for Mr. Doherty? Commissioner Vargas?
Yes, Mr. Doherty, do you receive any taxpayer funds?
The building department does not receive any, the building department enforcement of statute 553 does not receive any money. And actually, we contribute back to the county approximately $2 million a year for oversight support for our services. So actually, we're a revenue source for the rest of the county, budgeting, HR, legal, IT, what have you.
Okay.
So but we do receive, I think there may be some taxpayer money for local code enforcement.
So what percentage is that out of your budget? Do you have an idea or dollar amount?
I think
Of the $8 million budget, code enforcement is $1.2 million, which is offset by review fees as well as some state revenue sharing. But Jeff's budget is primarily through building permitting inspection fees.
Okay, so you said 1.2 million, but it's offset, so what is the net?
I'll have to go research that number for
Okay,
you.
if you wouldn't mind, thank you. Okay, and you said you give back 2 million?
approximately $2 million.
That is, those are what are called indirect costs, so Jeff doesn't get me for free. He has to pay for my service, so through the indirect cost study that we do every 2 years, Jeff's department, the building, pays back the general fund for all the overhead support such as county administration, county attorney, budget, HR, purchasing, all of those general countywide functions.
Yeah, I
Federal
understand
services
that.
taking care of our building or whatever that would be.
Yes.
If you'd be kind enough to get back with me about that, please, Ms. Murley, thank you.
Any further questions?
Motion to accept the tentative budget of the building department.
Second.
Commissioner Capps?
I'm good.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll take up the capital improvement plan.
Good morning.
Morning.
Shelby Del Pietra, Budget and CIP Coordinator. Commissioners, as you recall, the FY27 Capital Improvement Plan was presented and tentatively approved at the CIP workshop on April 21st, 2026, and is now being presented as part of the fiscal year 2027 budget. As we know, the CIP includes various departments and is supported by multiple funding sources, including our enterprise fee-based departments such as airport, solid waste, and utilities. The overall decrease is due to reductions in roads, solid waste, and utilities, driven by grant opportunities and several large projects being fully funded in fiscal year 26. What services does the CIP provide? It is the county's multi-year, long-term planning tool for major capital investments. While the operating budget funds daily operations, the CIP focuses on proactively maintaining, replacing, and hardening the infrastructure and equipment that allow departments to deliver services to the public. The CIP helps identify and plan for future infrastructure needs, supports the county's strategic goals, and provides transparency in planning and funding capital projects. It also strengthens our ability to pursue grant funding by demonstrating that projects have been identified as a critical infrastructure investment. The CIP also includes fixed asset replacement budgets and equipment replacements that are essential to maintaining reliable services, systems, and assets for our residents for years to come. That is all I have for you.
Questions for Ms. Del Pietra? Anybody want to add or subtract anything to the CIP? Commissioner Hetherington?
Question, the FARPs have always been included in The maintenance verbs have always been in the CIP.
Yes, ma'am.
And then on your first slide, you had something about the restroom on page, let's see, 188. It says on line 6300, it says the Sea Turtle restroom is 1.69,700,000.
So there are other funding sources to that project, such as Commission MSTU, District 1 funds, along with park fees, are included in that total that you see in the budget page.
So we're constructing a restroom for 1.69 million or more.
That would be the fiscal year 27 allocation.
That's only a portion of the CIP sheet for this year.
Correct.
Could you please tell me what page you were on, a moment ago referring to?
188.
188.
Yes,
So
I
that's
understood you
this
said
year's
that.
allocation for the cafe restroom.
Right.
It seems like quite an expensive restroom.
Well, it's also on the ocean too, and we have to go through DEP, so.
Still seems like quite an expensive restroom.
Well, talk with them.
So I think if we make adjustments, then that's something that we're probably going to have to look at. That to me sends up a red flag when you're putting, so what's the total amount? This is just this year. Well, what's the total cost of that restroom?
5.2.
5.2 million.
Correct. And there's been expenditures year to date so far. Based when we did the CIP sheet, there's been roughly 226 to date in expenses. Obviously, this project's still ongoing currently, and there is open.
Is it fully designed?
Kevin Abate.
I think he was getting close to design completion.
I believe it's about 80%.
80% designed, and
Yes.
it's at 5.9 million?
That's for a $5.9 billion project, yes.
Yeah, we're going out to bid towards the end of this year.
Will we be out to bid before September?
No,
No, Commissioner.
Mr. Abate is here too, so he can answer questions.
So this is, the project or the restroom is 5.9 million?
The entire project.
And how much is unfunded?
This year's budget currently makes it fully funded. This is the last allocation towards.
And
this
what are
project.
the funding sources?
We have ad valorem, bed tax, insurance proceeds, and beach impact fees.
No district fees?
There is commission funds. Those have already been allocated towards this project. And I have.
Mr. Hetherington?
What were the insurance proceeds for that?
255,000.
So 255,000 to replace the structure,
Yes, that's what we received for that.
and now we're replacing it with a $5.9 million structure?
Good morning, Kevin
Good morning.
Abate, Parks Director. Well, the entire CIP sheet includes the new dune crossover that's being designed, the entire almost 9,000 square foot deck that includes the beachside restroom, the cafe, and the tiki. So the entire project, it does have it's an elevated project, meaning it's about 14 or 15 feet in elevation, does have a basement, if you will, for beach chair storage and concession storage at the bottom. So the funding that's being referred to in the CIP sheet is the additional funding that was needed based on the cost estimates by the engineering company to finalize the project. And I believe we've been collecting funding sources for several years, including park fees, beach impact fees, some bed tax fees to replace the maintenance of the crossover that we ripped out after the fire, district MSTU fees from District 1. So it's a combination of several different funding sources for this project. This was the final year. And to answer the question on design, we are approaching 80% design. We fully expect to be fully designed by the end of this fiscal year, with the goal of going out to bid after we get our full funding, putting out the bid after October.
So what percentage is ad valorem funding for this project?
Of the total 5.9 million, the total ad valorem is approximately or sorry, 5.2 million. Ad valorem is 2.9 of it.
Yeah, with the talk of property tax reform this year, I'd be very cautious, having highlighted a $5.9 million beach restroom. Seems like it raises a red flag for the CFO and Doge to come to Martin County. So I would say we need to take another look at wants versus needs.
Okay, but we also talked about approving a $74 million no bid. You did. So we're talking about something that brings in revenue. Our beaches are biggest source of revenue here in Martin County. This was a catastrophe. It has to be replaced. A car had run into it. It was on wooden supports, is my understanding. We have to pillar in deeply, and Mr. Donaldson can speak to that more eloquently as an engineer, what has to be done. So, we could talk about being cautious, but let's keep things in perspective.
We have till September to reduce the scope, because we can always decrease the budget, we just can't increase it.
We are going out to bid, as was said, at the end of this year. Okay?
Hopefully it
So
comes
we will
in.
get the best bid for this county.
Again, by September, we can always decrease the scope, we just won't increase it.
Well, there are other places also in
Absolute-
September, so I
absolutely.
urge you to take a look at everything.
I will.
Is this structure hardened?
Yes, it's built with auger piles, concrete piles as the foundation, but it's a steel crossbeam, but it's a hurricane-proof building code. So it's going through the DEP permitting now for all the structural part of it on the dune. And then we'll go through the building department review this summer, or now, very soon, which is happening with our consultant. But yes, it's a hardened facility.
So that's part of the design scope, is that the all aspects of it need to be hardened?
It would, Commissioner, would need to meet the minimum building code requirements as
So that's
what-
not hardening?
Yeah, so it's not, it's nothing more additional than meeting the building code, and the only additional building code, because it's on the beach, would be due to potential wave action, so that's why it's a pile-supported structure. So that adds, that would be the additional piece. But there's nothing, since it's not it's not designed as a living place or as for sheltering, it's not going to be hardened in that sense, Commissioner, but it will be at least resistant to hurricane damage.
And there's already water and sewer there, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just thinking about this versus the operations facility, which is hardened and also has water and sewer and tons of other requirements. And this is a restaurant and a restaurant and a restroom. Any further questions? I guess, yeah.
I would move tentative approval of the CIP budget item.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Commission MSTU. The Commission MSTUs are discretionary funds for each of the 5 districts. Per state statute, these funds must be used on a public purpose within that district's boundaries. Historically, these funds have been used to help fund CIP projects that have been identified in the capital improvement plan. For fiscal year 27 budget, districts 1, 2, and 5 are proposing to constant funding levels. Districts 3 and 4 are proposing to keep constant millage levels. If members of the board would like to adjust their millage rate or dollars, we can make adjustments at the wrap-up.
I would like to adjust mine down to rollback, please.
Okay, can do. We'll make those changes at the end.
Okay.
I would do the same for District 2.
Any further questions?
At the rollback, I don't think it's at the rollback, is it?
Yours is technically rollback right now, Commissioner.
Any further questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve the commission MSTU?
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Community development is next. Good morning, Ms. Corres.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Susan Corres, Community Development Director. The Office of Community Development is responsible for three main activities: the operation and management of the Martin County Community Redevelopment Agency and its 6 CRA areas, the Martin County Art in Public Places Program, and the Martin County Historic Preservation Board. And our goals, as listed here on slide number 1, reflect the mission statements for each. In short, I'll give you a little brief mission statement. CRA projects deliver vital positive economic impacts. Art in public places increases the residents' quality of life through aesthetic enrichment, and the Historic Preservation Program educates the community while it preserves and protects current and future county assets. This tentative fiscal year 2027 budget presented to you today allows us to maintain our current level of service and operational efficiency and effectiveness. The increase of 2.99% is due to pre-approved bargaining agreements for all county employees. We have also adjusted, you might have noticed, some line items within to reflect actual expenditures and the operational needs for FY27, although there is no increase in these lines. Slide number 2 talks a little bit about our services, and if you notice, I identified CRA services in a few different categories. There may be more: streetscapes, neighborhood improvements, environmental resources, community revitalization. We continue to focus on the advancement of infrastructure-related projects throughout all 6 CRA areas that set the stage for redevelopment. These projects, past, present, and future, are those that have had and will have a huge economic impact through increased private sector investment, job creation, small business growth, and quality of life through cultural enrichment. All of the projects that we do fit into multiple categories and therefore bring multiple benefits. For example, although listed under one category, most, if not all, of the projects listed here could be listed under any other category. The award-winning Ripple project in Palm City is a perfect example. This unrivaled environmental amenity enhances stormwater retention, improves drainage, increases water quality, educates the public, incorporates eco-art, celebrates our history, and beautifies our community. The county's public art inventory since 2017 has increased 115%, and each of our artworks has a rigorous maintenance program. And through participation in the community with our external partners and active sponsorship of our community, our program has become widely known and appreciated. Historic Preservation Month events have increased by 88%, and we are part of the new History and Culture Expo, working with 16 other nonprofits in the area to promote our history and heritage. You might notice that there are asterisks next to many of the projects listed, and I have emphasized those because I think partnerships are very important. And I think it's important to show that county departments work together. This is external and internal partnerships. We support one another, we rely on each other's expertise, and most importantly, leverage our collective resources to efficiently and effectively provide high-quality services to our residents. This slide drills down a little bit further on the services that we provide and offers a snapshot of what that might look like. I'm just going to focus on a few. Public meetings. My office coordinates and manages 62 public meetings per year. And that does not include many of the other community-facing presentations and meetings that staff participates in, like CARES, district events, ribbon cuttings, town hall meetings, community presentations, etc. The increase in community engagement is particularly telling. It clearly illustrates that our residents are extremely responsive when we bring them meaningful projects in a community setting where they can have a voice. We've generated double the amount of revenue in our CRA tax increment financing. Our grant awards, we've brought in close to $4 million in grants. Internal project coordination, I'm going to talk about that one for a minute because, again, important, I think, to what we're trying to do for our residents. This is when CRA dollars are used to supplement and complement projects done by other departments in a CRA. So in the last slide, I emphasized how we work together with our internal and external partners. This statistic more clearly demonstrates interdepartmental efficiency and how county departments work together to achieve the exceptional level of service that we continually offer to the community. At the end of the day, Commissioners, it's really all about value and what the taxpayer receives. So I've mentioned economic development and private investment a few times in this presentation. And I know that you all understand that tax increment financing is a tool that the county employs to increase private investment that benefits all. The county builds the stage, and private sector provides the sets, the players, the costumes, and runs the show. And it works. Let's take a look. Bridge Road, we're going to go all the way down. Bridge Road and the multi-award-winning Map Road and Palm City Place. You can see the county investment to build those amenities, those projects. And then you can see the private investment that has followed. And this, Commissioners, only includes what's on those corridors, what's on exactly the project parameters of Bridge Road and Map Road. It does not include Dixie Highway going north and south. It doesn't include Martin Highway. It doesn't include Martin Downs. Building strong, vibrant communities that include a healthy return on investment for the taxpayer is smart, effective, and fiscally responsible. We look forward to your unanimous approval of our tentative FY 2027 budget so that we may continue to successfully provide vital services to our residents. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I'm just curious, two projects that were in the CRAs that were really supported by the neighbors are the Waterfront Restaurant in Palm City and also Rio Marine Village. How is progress on those two projects?
So Rio Marine Village is moving along. They've had some demolition work going on of all of the private properties that they purchased. So they've done the marina on the south, and now they're demolishing those properties in order to continue to build the south portion.
And has work started on the restaurant in Palm City?
That is
waterfront
not in the
restaurant?
CRA, so I can't speak on that.
I can.
Okay.
The Meridian Marina on Map Road north of Martin Downs Boulevard, they just actually opened their large hardened internal storage, like out-of-water storage building. It's beautiful. It's obviously a tremendously large building, but they did a lot of architectural details to make it sort of a little more attractive than just a big steel building, and landscaping, and they have all of the designs for the building that exists there, so they're not building something brand new on the water. They're going to completely rehab a derelict building. The plans are, the last I saw them, they were, I guess, done. And the fun part was they were looking for restaurant partners. They're not going to run the food service and the restaurant portion themselves. So they were looking at like all of the most successful, popular restaurants in Martin County to partner with them. And so I think they're probably 6 months out, but it'll be a great opportunity. It's a very pretty spot. As Commissioner Hurd said, it's the only spot in Palm City where you can dine on the water like that.
I'm sorry, it's not a redevelopment project.
It's a great project. We look forward to its completion.
And that's all private.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, to your 17 million on Map Road.
I think
just
that's
the-
conservative.
Yeah, and that's just the beginning.
It
There's
is
several other
conservative because it
opportunities.
doesn't account for all of those other things. Those are just a few quick numbers that we did that look at property sales and the permits for the redevelopment that's happened right on the street. Yeah.
Commissioner Capps?
When talking about community redevelopment, it's always good to refresh our memories about how the TIF funding works. And is it a 65-35 split now, or is it 70-30? I can't remember.
65% of the TIF is funding the capital program and the Office of Community Development's
65?
65%.
Okay. And basically, you take a baseline somewhere around the year 2000, they vary a little bit from one to the other.
Correct.
And the increase in property values inside the CRA boundary, we take that
That
off.
is your
And that's
values.
the amount of money that stays in that community for redevelopment purposes.
And it's important, I think, Commissioner, to point out that it's not an extra tax. It's just the same amount of property taxes going into a different bucket for a particular activity.
And this way, we make sure that all of them get their fair share of tax money. And that it doesn't all
Try to
go
work it out that way, yes.
one of the districts or something.
Any further questions? Is there a motion to?
Yes. Motion to accept tentative budget for the CRA.
Second.
Community, Office of Community Development, OCD.
OCD, we live with it.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
County Attorney's tentative budget.
Good morning, Chair Hurd and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2027 budget for the County Attorney's Office. I am very pleased to present to you a budget which is a reduction by 5.58%. Even with the increase in salary and benefits, we were able to reduce our budget this year. This reduction was achieved by a conscious restructuring of our office, allowing us to maintain the same level of legal service while operating efficiently and reducing costs. Our office is comprised of 5 full-time attorneys, 1 part-time attorney, and an office administrator. We are a very small office, but we run very efficiently. Unlike most law firms or county attorneys' offices, we do not have legal assistants, we don't have support staff, we don't have secretaries. Our attorneys handle all their day-to-day matters. We have 1 office administrator that runs the office and helps us day-to-day. And I'm happy to say that since 2018, our office has reduced staff by 30%. So many think that our office might review a contract here or there or represent the county in a lawsuit here or there, but that is an understatement for what our office undertakes. We are ingrained in the day-to-day operations of the entire county. We represent and work with every department, division, constitutional offices, every advisory board, the MPO and the canvassing board in our day-to-day operations. Every attorney is assigned to one of those divisions, boards, and those staff members or advisory board members can call our office at any time to get legal advice on day-to-day matters. So overall, we're a full-service law firm, basically, for the county. We provide legal counsel on local government law, land use, environmental, real property, procurement, construction, the list goes on. And we do this on a daily basis. And this is important to the county because we're ingrained with staff and we can provide very efficient legal advice and reduce the risk to the county. So the last slide.
Why don't you run through those? That slide is important.
No, the next slide. The 2 slides back.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So these are just a list of some of the things that we do every day for the county. We advise the board on all legal matters. We review and draft ordinances, resolutions, and all county policies. We review every single contract before the county signs it. We represent the county in many of its litigation, including administration matters and appeals. We support acquisitions and real estate transactions. We negotiate interlocals. We review grants. The list goes on and on. One thing I think is significant, this year we worked very closely, I know I did, with John Mayle and Sarah Powers, and we're able to give them advice on the different laws that are going through the legislative process to inform them how it's going to impact the county. And they're able to go to our delegation and provide sound legal advice about how different laws, as they travel through the legislature, will affect the county. And I think that's really important for our office. So next slide, please. So like I said, we were trying to quantify some of the services we provided in 2025. It's really hard because our office does a lot. But overall, we represent 54 departments and offices. We represent 35 boards and committees. We have reviewed hundreds and hundreds of contracts every year. I know personally I review 1 to 3 a week. Times 6 attorneys, that's significant. We reviewed or drafted 30 ordinances, drafted 325 resolutions. We participated in 91 real property projects. We represent the county in many lawsuits, and last year we had 8 favorable outcomes in lawsuits and 0 negative outcomes. We also review every single agenda item that goes to this board. So, which is significant, all this legal advice we provide, because we are able to reduce the risk that is that the county has. So we provide this legal advice day to day. We know the county, and we have very few lawsuits as a result, which actually saves money overall. So this is just an example of some of the counties, departments, divisions, constitutional offices that we represent. So I thought it was important to show that each one has its own distinct area of law. So we are giving a wide variety of legal advice through the county. And I think that, like I said, that's invaluable to assisting staff with operating day to day and reducing county risk. So overall, our budget demonstrates our commitment to fiscal responsibility while maintaining the comprehensive legal services we provide to the county every single day. So I'm happy to present that budget, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Questions?
Just a quick question. Don't you review TRICO cases as well?
We do. So TRICO, we do review.
Put them on your list.
We do represent the county for TRICO as well.
Commissioner Vargas.
Yes, how much do you pay outside counsel?
So we pay some departments have their own outside counsel, so I don't have those figures, like the building department has someone for code enforcement. But the county attorney's office only provides outside counsel for major litigation matters, and right now we just have 2. And one of those they're related, and they were in place prior to me taking effect. It's a litigation matter. We assist them, so it depends on where the stage of the litigation is. So it could go anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month right now, but we believe that case is going to wrap up. Other than that, we handle all the cases ourselves, and except for TRICO matters, the PI cases.
Okay, so you said $5,000 to $10,000 per month, so how many months?
So that
What are we
lawsuit was
talking about?
filed in November, so we might have, and that's just an estimate. So if we've spent, I don't have the figure, I can let you know what it was. You might know.
We're still in the current fiscal year, so those actuals are not reflected on that. But if we're using fiscal year 25, which is an audited number at the moment, last year, professional services, outside counsel, both litigation and non-litigation, amounted to approximately 17 grand total for the whole fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's last year.
Last
And then you
year.
have this year.
So we don't have that number
We don't
yet,
have-
but I guess it'll probably be about the same. We don't have anything more significant. We have minimal lawsuits, and we're hopeful one's about to resolve.
Okay, because you have other contractual services here, 30,000?
So that's in case we have litigation and we need to hire an expert witness or something like that, or, so that is for potential legal cases that we are handling, we need to hire outside consultants and experts.
Mr. Capps.
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nice job.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will take up fire rescue. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Chief.
For the record, my name is Chad Chanchuli, Fire Chief, Martin County Fire Rescue. So today, we're here to present to you our FY27 tentative budget, but I'm going to do things a little bit different this time, just because of what's happening right now with the kind of Doge state that we're in. I just want to go into a little bit of detail for the public to understand the budget of fire rescue and how our budget has gotten us to where we are today, and I'm going to go into some of those actual details and explain. So first, let's start with our FY26 adopted budget was $73.9 million. Our FY27 tentative budget is $77.5 million, and that's a change of 4.92%. So here's the thing that I want everyone to pay attention to. When we look at fire rescue in Martin County, we call ourselves a full-service department. When you compare like agencies, always make sure you compare apples to apples. Under the umbrella of fire rescue in Martin County, we have many different disciplines. When you go to other agencies that are fire rescue, their budget would be just fire and EMS. Not all, but most. So some of our disciplines that we have under fire rescue: emergency management, nuclear planning, communications, which is our dispatchers, ocean rescue, which is our lifeguards, fire prevention, administration, operations, fleet services and logistics, aeromedical operations, which is our trauma helicopter Lifestar, and then training and operational management. So moving on to our department goals, pretty simple. Maintain rapid response coverage countywide, sustain the staffing to match that call demand, which we have been doing, and I'm going to explain. Replace our aging apparatus and bunker gear. This is a high-cost item. This is something that Mr. Resch has been doing for many, many years. He has a very fiscal, responsible approach to how we budget for these items. He saves every year throughout the year, so it's not just one big major impact. He does a phenomenal job with that, and we'll talk a little more about that. The other is to protect our ISO rating. Our ISO rating, and not to get too far off the rails, but this is a very important rating for the community. ISO stands for Insurance Service Office. This is when you as a homeowner may be reevaluating your bills, looking for better homeowners insurance, and you start calling different companies. Or you may be a new homeowner and you have to get homeowners insurance for your home. When you call these insurance companies, what they're going to do is look at your ISO rating and see what classification you are depending on the area that you live in. The classes go from class 1, which is the best, to class 10, which is the worst. If you're in a class 10 area, your premiums are going to reflect that, and they're going to be very high. Class 10 areas are typical outside the urban service district. And what dictates that class essentially is how quick we can assemble firefighters on a residential structure fire in a timely manner, and how quick we can get water there as well. That's why the western part you'll see in a class 10. Inside the urban service district, what I'm happy to report over the last couple of years, we actually took our class rating from a class 3, reduced it to a class 2, which is better for the taxpayers when they actually go for their homeowners insurance or they renew their homeowners insurance. The goal is to strive for a class 1. Now, let me just explain a class 1. A class 1, to achieve that, if we were in a city limit and we had 7 to 9 square land miles to cover, it's easier to achieve. Your travel times are quicker, you have a hydrant around every corner, and it's something that is a lot more achievable to get that class 1. But when you look at Martin County Fire Rescue, we cover 520 square land miles, and to achieve a class 1 would be a huge accomplishment. But even with that said, I believe that we can be a class 1 if we have your support within the next couple of years. So that's one of our big goals that we have. So let's talk about the budget drivers. Apparatus and equipment cost increases, and we're definitely going to hit on this. Our FRS, unfunded mandates, we are definitely going to talk about that. And then what I want the public to actually understand, the lion's share of our budget, 93%, is people. So let's move on to the next slide. So right now, like I said, we're in a bit of a Doge state. So we have, in 2020, you have a state implied inflationary formula. This is a state fiscal oversight methodology, and they apply this back to a 2020 baseline to where we are current. What they essentially do is they go across the state to different municipalities, they apply this formula specific to that municipality, and then they come up with a total sum number, and we're going to break this down. But whatever that total sum number they come up with, in the eyes of the state, anything above and beyond that number could be viewed as reckless, irresponsible spending of tax dollars. So let's bring this to Martin County. So if we look at the CPI inflation, 25.5%, If we look at the population growth for Martin County, all this goes back to 2020, it's 5.1%. And then you look at the 5% buffer they add in their formula, your total number is 35.6%. So anything outside of this number may be deemed as irresponsible spending. So that's how they apply this methodology. So if I take that 35.6% and I walk into a grocery store, if I get a gallon of milk or I get a carton of eggs, that math may actually work. But here's what you can't do. You cannot compare the specialized services of fire rescue to a grocery basket. It doesn't work, and I'm going to explain why. So moving on to the next slide. So in 2020, if I was going to purchase a fire truck, when we did, that truck would have cost me $539,000. That same truck, same specs, no changes. In fact, the same vendor, that same truck cost me $1 million. That's an 85.4% increase. Now, if I do that with a ladder truck, same thing. 2020, that truck cost me $752,000. Same truck, same specs, no changes. That now cost me $1.3 million. That's a 73% increase. And for the general public, what I want them to understand, when we purchase these vehicles, we keep them for 15 years. 10 years frontline, 5-year backup. How we do that is because of our individuals that work in our fleet maintenance shop. They do an amazing job of keeping these trucks on the road. If it wasn't for their specialized skill set, there is no way we could keep these trucks for 15 years. But that is just one illustration of how the type of quality people that you have in this department and the skill set they have to keep these trucks running. And let's face it, most people don't even keep their personal vehicles for 15 years. But we're putting these trucks on the road for 15 years because of them. But let me move on. Diesel. Diesel has gone up almost 90%. Practically our entire fleet runs on diesel all day, every day, and we burn a lot of it. Our bunker gear, this is an important one. This is the safety gear our firefighters wear. This is their firefighter ensemble. This is what they put on to go in what we would call an IDLH atmosphere, immediate danger to life and health. Meaning, if they go into a residential structure fire and they have to do a victim rescue, this gear protects them. It lets them to get closer to the fire. It lets them push the limits to have these effective victim rescues. It also lets them do aggressive fire operations interior. But aside from that, it also lets them approach these fiery car accidents that you've been seeing out there in this county, which I'm telling you, this county, something unique about Martin County, is next level with the type of traumatic vehicle accidents that we have. This gear is designed to protect them, to be able to have offensive operations, to get in close, to be able to extinguish this fire and get these victims out of harm's way. That gear right there, if I purchased in 2020, it would have cost me roughly $2,500. I purchased that same set today, it's $4,000. We have 350 firefighters boots on the ground. They have to have 2 sets of gear. Why? Because when they do go into these structure fires or on these vehicle fires, they are just soaked in carcinogens. They have to take that gear off immediately, put it out of service, and launder that gear. They now move into that backup set of gear, and then that cycle completes, right? So 350 firefighters, 2 sets of gear, that's 700 sets of gear at $4,000. All right, a rescue unit. Most people call it an ambulance. If I bought that truck, 2020, $246,000. Same truck, same specs, no change, $400,000 today. That's a 62% increase. And then here's the big one. The FRS pension mandate, unfunded. This is what the state gives to us. That has gone up 54%. The number to fire rescue alone is $4.8 million. All right, so let's talk about the demand that actually drove the budget. If I take you back from 2009 to 2018, we hired no additional firefighters. We maintained the minimum staffing that we had, but didn't hire any extra. But from that time frame to where we are now, our call load has increased by 63%. So what we were doing was leaning the system out, continue to lean it to keep up with the demand. Well, in 2019, the administration at the time came to the board, and they requested a SAFER grant for 24 additional firefighter paramedics. This was a FEMA-funded SAFER grant. SAFER stands for Staffing Adequate for Fire and Emergency Response. The reason they requested this grant, this is what the federal government would give you to allow you to offset the cost of those employees for about 3 to 5 years. I think at that time it was greater than 3 years. And you slowly absorb the full cost of those employees. It allows municipalities to onboard newer employees. It gives them a little bit of time to catch up with it. Anyway, they came to the board to request that. They granted it. They were awarded the 24 positions, extra firefighter paramedics, but this is what they did with them. This had nothing to do with that 63% that I'm telling you that the call load increased. This had to do with placing them on engines and on ladder trucks to actually make them advanced life support capable. This increased the level of service to the community. Now, why is it important to put a fire medic on a on a ladder or an engine? What this happens in every zone, doesn't matter what part of the county we're in, if we have a firehouse, a typical fire truck, and then you have a rescue, and there's a medical call that goes out, that rescue goes to that medical call, and they provide that the advanced life support care, they treat the patient, and then they take them en route to their destination hospital. While they're en route to the hospital, then another medical call drops in that zone. Now, we're able to send either the fire truck or ladder truck, whichever, and go ahead and go en route because they're the closest to that patient because that is their zone, and they're able to provide advanced life support care because the essential items that are on that rescue for medical treatment are also on those engine and ladder trucks. So that makes a very consistent level of service across the community, and that really elevated the level of service as far as how Martin County was receiving it at the time. That's what the 24 did. Now, in 2024, this is where things were really broken. That 63%, it caught up to us. And we had to actually put 5 additional rescues on the road to keep up with the demand of the public because the calls were coming in so fast and so rapid, we had to maintain a level of service. The problem is we didn't have the people to put on those 5 additional trucks. So what did we do? We funded those trucks 100% with overtime. And in the beginning, people were working the overtime. But here's the problem. When you work 48 hours straight, it is a mental and physical grind on an employee. It's going to last so long, and eventually, what are they going to do? They're going to stop taking the overtime. So now what happened? We went into something that we called mandatory overtime. If you won't know any firefighter family, firefighters work for 24 hours. Their family dynamic is built around that 24-hour schedule. Their entire life is built around that 24-hour schedule. Anything, anniversaries, birthdays, vacations, I don't care what you're doing, do not upset that schedule because it doesn't change, it stays the same. However, because that employee worked 24 hours, supposed to go home, and nobody is taking the overtime, I had to call that employee and tell them, you're staying another day. You're going to work 48 hours straight. You don't have a choice in the matter because I can't shut the truck off. I have to make them stay. Now, pick up the phone and call your family and let them know whatever you had going on, all that's going to change now because that's a huge impact. So we came to the board and we requested an additional 40 full-time employees to complement those 5 additional rescues we had out there on the road. You allowed us to apply for the grant. Unfortunately, the FEMA grant is a highly, highly competitive grant across the nation. We did not receive the grant that year. And we had to come back to the board because we still had a problem. And we requested an additional 20 to bring some immediate reprieve to our people. You allowed us to hire those 20. We went back out for another FEMA SAFER grant, and we got a remaining amount of 18, and that brought us up to where we are today. That's a lot of information. Let me just recap here, right? So from 2009 to current, call load's gone up 63%. Our personnel that we have added along the way, 62 people. Our budget has increased by 62%. And remember, the lion's share of our budget, 93%, it's the people. So let me talk about recruitment and retention. This one, I'm just going to give you a heads up. This one's going to be a little bit disturbing, but we have to share this because we got to make sure we make some good decisions in the near future. Right now, we have 40 qualified firefighters that are in the pipeline to get hired in a department down south. 40 of them. If we lose 40, that is catastrophic to this organization. Heck, if I lose half that, that is detrimental to this organization. But here's how firefighters are built. We are built on always plan worst case scenario. Always have contingencies in mind because you never know what's going to happen. The way they're thinking is this. They know what's happening in the state. They know what's on the ballot in November, and if the homestead exemption, if that actually happens, they know that the direct impacts to us is going to be significant. And they understand 93% of our budget is people. So we have 40 of them in the pipeline right now. But let's talk about replacing just one firefighter paramedic. What is the dollars and cents? What's the cost? If I lose a firefighter paramedic, I'm going to open up applications to anybody out there. And then my applications are going to come in, and I'm going to end up hiring a firefighter EMT. Why not the firefighter paramedic? I'll tell you why. Because the market down south now, the salaries are being so competitive that if you already have that advanced training to be a firefighter paramedic, you're driving right through Martin County and you're headed down south because they will pick you up in a heartbeat. So I'm going to end up with a firefighter EMT, which I'm okay with, and here's why. I can take that firefighter EMT, I can build them from scratch, I can get them to the Martin County way, I can raise them to the standard that we have here in Martin County Fire Rescue, and I'm telling you, our standard is unmatched by any department, especially down south. We have a very high standard. But I can do that. I can invest in them. I can train them, and I can get them there to actually be a huge asset to the organization. The problem is I have to be able to keep them. And if I train them and then they leave, I'm just back in the cycle. And I cannot be in a training cycle because the math doesn't work for us. So let's talk about this firefighter EMT. It's going to take me 3 years to get them to the beginning level of a firefighter paramedic, up to 3 years. Except they're going to be at the beginning level of a firefighter paramedic, not the experienced firefighter paramedic. What's the difference? I'll tell you what the difference is. If I take an experienced firefighter paramedic, and I put them on a high acuity call, complex call, they're going to go to that call, they're going to go through that Rolodex in their mind. They've been there, they've done that, they know what methodology, they know what works and what doesn't work, and they're going to immediately give the care that that individual needs in a snap. That's how quick it'll be. One that doesn't have that experience, that knowledge, those reps, those sets, they don't have any of that, they just have the school. Yes, they will get through that call, but when they get on the call, they're going to look at the call. I've never been here. I've never done that. I didn't read this in the books. And they're going to process this. And it's going to take them time to meet that level of making that decision. That does impact the level of service. Because when we talk about seconds make a difference, it's not a catchphrase. It's real. They will get the job done, but not in the same manner. Anyway, that 3 years that I'm training that firefighter EMT to be a medic, I have to pay for their salary and fringes benefits, right? It's going to cost me $318,000 in that 3-year time frame. Then I have to get them bunker gear and uniforms. That's another $15,000. You may ask, well, if that fire medic left, why can't you take their bunker gear and just throw it on the new one? Well, good question. Problem is the bunker gear is tailored fitted for our firefighters. It has to be like that. It's the only way we keep them safe. It is not a batch fit. It is a tailor fit to each individual firefighter. So we have to get them new gear. Then I'm going to send them to paramedic school. I'm going to spend $9,000 just to send them to school. That's going to take time of 12 to 15 months to get them through solely 100% paramedic training, just medical. That's all it is. And it is a very, very intensive program, and here's why. The importance of a paramedic. If you think about what ER doctors do in the ER room and what some of the trauma surgeons do in a trauma room, these medics are trained at the level to do some of those same skill sets on the side of the road, in the back of the truck, in the middle of the night with limited lighting. That's the caliber of the people that you have working here. And that's how long it takes to get them to that level. Anyway, so it costs us $9,000 to do that, right? Here's the catch. That firefighter paramedic that left, I had to fill that seat with another firefighter or paramedic. I just told you I hired an EMT, so how do I do that? I'll tell you how I do it. I do it with overtime. I have to staff that seat to keep that advanced life support, to keep that level of service to our community with another paramedic, and it's going to cost overtime. It's going to be 100 shifts per year of overtime. It's going to cost $1,667 per shift of overtime for 3 years. That in itself is $500,000. Now, let me add all that up. It cost us $842,000 when we're in a state of being mandatory overtime to replace one firefighter paramedic. I got 40 in the pipeline right now. It's something that we have got to pay attention to. All right. So this one.
When you say 40 in the pipeline, I don't think people understood that that's 40 current Martin County firefighter paramedics that have put applications in.
Correct.
To go to Palm Beach.
They're in an active testing process right now. Correct.
Thank you.
So let me talk about the last slide here. This is something that the union has done, and I couldn't be more proud of what they have taken upon themselves to do. You know, I come before you all the time. I talk about our high standard. I talk about our professionalism. I talk about how great our people are, right? And from your position looking at me, you're like, right, Chad, you're the fire chief, you're biased, you're always going to say that. And I get that. But this is the best part. I don't have to say anything because they just did it. They performed the most selfless act right now. Right now, the union should be before this board, and they should have negotiated with us a new firefighter union contract. And in that contract, they should be negotiating their wages, their benefits, their terms and conditions of employment. They should be benefiting for the fact that what the market is bearing, they need to be able to be within the market of those salaries down south. We all know we're not going to pay what they pay down south. And the sheriff had mentioned this earlier, but you have got to be in the market of what they're doing down south. They have every right to do that. They also know if the homestead exemption tax passes, the first year to fire rescue alone, it's going to be a $9.5 million reduction just to fire rescue. And then in the second year, it's going to be an additional $7 million. In 2 years, that's $16.5 million of a reduction to our budget. They know all of that, and yet collectively they voted to keep that contract closed. Because they understand the position you're going to be in to make tough decisions. They understand the uneasiness of the state right now. They understand the county employees of how they feel the anxiety right now. And they made sure that they put the community before their own needs, and they kept this thing shut. I couldn't be more proud of their professionalism and their selfless service. I'm very, very proud of them. So with that, I'm going to conclude the presentation. Mainly what this is about, to share with you what's happening with the state-approved inflationary formula, how it does not apply to specialized services like fire rescue. And with that, that concludes the budget, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
For starters, Chief, there are a lot of people who believe that public safety has a carve-out with the referendum. You do not. So I would appreciate it if you would come back at a later date and explain to us exactly what the referendum would do to your department. As you say, in the first year, it's $9.5 million. In the second year, it's $16.5 million. In the third year, it's far worse. I'd appreciate the same presentation from the sheriff and also from the property appraiser. Commissioner Capps.
I'd like to make a comment first. I'd just like to say how much I appreciate the union not pushing for their new contract at this critical juncture when we're trying to see whether the tax referendum is going to pass. That's very commendable. And then I had one question about the FRSA pension mandate, and the sheriff mentioned this too, that in both police and fire, it seems that there was a surprise, like, why is it such a surprise that these large increases in the pension contributions happen? Like, why is that unpredictable?
So when the state's going through their session, they usually propose a few bills in both the Senate and the House. And the original proposals from both the Senate and the House were showing essentially a flat rate increase in FRS for the special risk categories. And it was in that last session, the special session that was made, that they decided to add the 1.5% COLA adjustment to the special risk category, which on top of the current, the rate increases as they've gone, added to be millions of dollars for both fire and sheriff's office. It was about $2 million for the fire rescue department.
So this is like the state mandating to the counties that you shall pay this additional extra
Yes, and it was
for
about,
cost of living adjustment to first responders or public safety.
anyone who's
Yeah.
considered in the special risk category per Florida retirement system.
It's like a birthday card from your grandparents, but your parents put the money in.
Yes, it was like last week of May, very last minute.
Good analogy.
Thank you.
Commissioner Heatherington.
Thank you for that detailed presentation. We have a lot of new residents that move here, and they just come to expect the level of service, and that did not come over the years without a lot of effort and hard work by the department. So thank you for outlining how we got to where we are today. And I also want to express my appreciation. We've had a heck of a year with terrible traffic accidents, fatalities, and that takes a toll on your men and women. We see it on the ground, and we see all the tragedies that you respond to on the road. And so I want to send just my thanks to all of you that work on the street every day to keep us safe, because I can't even imagine what kind of, what you have to live with when you come up on some of those accidents and some of those horrific tragedies. So thank you, and I'd gladly motion to tentatively approve the budget.
Second. Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Can you just give us, I asked the sheriff also, can you give a recap of approximately how many calls you have? There's also talk, I'm sure you've heard, where people say, well, we only have a 4-story height limit and we don't. Can you share with us the medical emergency calls, as Commissioner Heatherington mentioned, versus fire calls, even though we've been reading in the paper about a lot of brush fires and things like that? And then how many stations there are and how much you cover?
Good morning. For the record, Rocco Napoli, Deputy Fire Chief. And to answer your question directly, Commissioner, I have a quick one-sheeter snapshot here of some of the information you just requested. Because we are in this fiscal year, like someone previously stated, my numbers I have are from 2019, from 2025. I wanted to piggyback off the Fire Chief's presentation. So right now, excuse me, we are up 8.4%, meaning from 2025, this is the last year of those numbers. So from 19 to 25, we're up 8.4%. This last year, we ran 46,215 total unit responses. That's every time our trucks have been on the road responding to an emergency. That's on average 127 responses a day. Now, if you fast forward to now, we're in this fiscal. From January to June, I ran these numbers from this year compared to last year, from January to June. We're climbing at a pace of 7.3%. That's 134 responses a day, and it's not slowing down anytime soon. If I go further down on my sheet, MVCs, we call motor vehicle collisions. Like you stated, we run those quite often. We run about 5 a day. Some days it may be a little more, some days it may be a little less. It could be your normal little fender bender that you see someone pull off to the side of the road, or it can be a multi-unit response, a high-level call. So we're running almost 5 a day. Outside fires from 2019, we're up 10%. That's our brush fires. Again, could be a smaller scale brush fire, but also could be a big multi-unit response. Every year since 2021, we've gone from anywhere from 8 to 28% spike in calls. It's 5 straight years of a trend. It's not a one-year spike. So this is the type of rise in demand that we have for the emergency services.
Thank you.
Commissioners, if I could just state that this is sort of the example of while Martin County is a slow growth, we're surrounded by large growth areas. Palm Beach County has been adding over 10,000 units a year. Port St. Lucie was averaging similar, around 10,000. and the amount of traffic going to and from South Florida, we're surrounded by it, and we're being impacted by that growth. Even though individually we're not seeing the growth internally, it affects their operation tremendously. Years ago, when you first started this, we talked about the ALFs, and that had a spike. But this trend that we're seeing now is just simply from the compounded growth. And we also have some growth in our businesses. Where they're not adding people, we are adding jobs. So those combination of things is where we're really seeing the impact to fire rescue and our sheriff's department.
To finish answering the question, we have 11 fire stations. We also have a Lifestar station in addition to that. And then we have a specialized contract on Jupiter Island, which has another substation. But the 11 are full-fledged, where they have at least one fire truck at a minimum, and then 1 or 2 rescues, depending on the actual station and how busy it is.
Can you mention about special teams, like what other areas of expertise you guys work in?
Sure, and that's going to tie into our next presentation that Madam Chair's requested us to do. Our specialty response, when we say full service, and I didn't want to make this too long-winded, but we have hazmat teams, we have dive teams, we have technical rescue teams. Now, hazmat, self-explanatory. We have a lot of transit through here. I think you all understand that. Between the rail, the marine industry, the 95, the turnpike, US 1, it's nonstop. Hazmat is a routine thing. Not only do we have a hazmat team, but they're a nationally recognized hazmat team. Again, the caliber of the people that we have in this organization that we can't afford to lose. But the technical rescue team, when you hear that, it sounds a little generalized. But you think about these complex motor vehicle collisions. This is one thing that is their bread and butter. We have what we call, it's a heavy rescue truck. It's a big, huge truck. We just call it a big toolbox. It has all this specialized equipment with the crew that has specialized training to perform these complex extrications. These aren't the fender benders. These are the ones that it can take up to 45 minutes to an hour to cut a person out of a vehicle. Vehicles are safer, yes. Think about that when you have an impact. They're safer, which means it's more difficult for us to cut into them to get you out of them. So it's a bit of a trade-off. But that's another example. Lifestar, we've already talked about 1,000 times. We don't have a trauma center here. That's a specialized team. The people that are on Lifestar, they are a very specialized unit of people. This is all trauma. They're not flying people that just had fallen and just stubbed a toe. They're flying people that are absolutely critical and near death. They're trying to meet that window of 60 minutes. That's the golden hour. And they are treating these patients while they're flying in the air to get them to the appropriate trauma center with the appropriate trauma team. But there's many other teams that we have, but those are the highlights, just the high-level ones.
Can you discuss ocean rescue and what you cover?
Ocean rescue, 22 pretty much coastal miles of beach is what they pretty much cover. Those people that we have out in their ocean rescue, and we call them the fins in the sand, they do a remarkable job. They are medically trained, and they're ocean rescue lifeguards. The standard those lifeguards have, this isn't sitting on the side of a pool waiting for somebody to jump in. These individuals, when you have what we call a Code X is where you have a missing swimmer. They hit the water, and it's all hands on deck. They shut the beaches down, and they are some of the most aggressive swimmers out there. And this isn't the flat water. This is the rough water that most people will be sitting on the beach not going into, but yet they're out there doing aggressive searches because they understand the lives that are at stake. But man, they are committed to the job.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Please express this board's sincere gratitude for your union members pausing their contract. Our people need to understand that they voluntarily decided to forego raises.
We will. Thank you.
Do we have a motion? Oh, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, let's take a lunch break and come back at 1:30, 1:45? 1:45. See you then.